A very good morning to you and welcome to the 22nd day of April 2026. So good to have you this morning. Welcome to TV47 Breakfast. My name is Ann Odida. Asante kwa kujiunga nasi.
And my name is Fred Ndimuli. Karibu sana. 8 days left to the end of this month, and we can officially say that we've entered the season of protests in Kenya. Yesterday, a lot happened. 11 people got arrested. Yeah, we were anticipating a lot more, but at least most of the front pages today of the dailies are just taking a look at what happened. Remember, the events of yesterday were linked to an anticipated protest by Gen Zs who had mobilized online. But politicians too have promised to push for mass protests over the same problems that people are complaining about. That is set to happen next week. Whether it will happen, we still do not know. Meanwhile, the Linda Mwananchi team said that they are going to call for 3-day protests around the June 25th date. Yeah. So mambo ndio ile wasema mambo ni mwecheche.
Mambo ni mwecheche. At the same time pia Gen Zs wanasema politicians hawaonekani time wanaenda ku protest. But then now when politicians are going to the streets, they're calling on these Gen Zs to show up.
But the question is because maybe sikusikia mahali politicians wakisema watakuwa hapo jana.
No, actually, I quite understand what they're saying. Because, these politicians expect Gen Zs to show up in this protest, right? But then now they also expect that when they call for a protest, wao wenyewe kama Gen Zs, that they'd expect these politicians to also show up and support them.
Yet,
so it's just a two-way traffic.
The past 2 years, we saw Gen Zs telling politicians to stay away from whatever they're doing.
That was 2024.
Walisema msikuja hapa taki, we do not identify with you.
Yeah.
So this time around, why are they complaining that politicians are not showing up for their protests?
Well, maybe wanaona ni kama hii sasa is beyond them.
Kila mtu is pointing fingers at the other. Yes. Nyinyi mbona mkuji maandamano?
Yes. That is what is happening in this country. Story is still making headlines this morning. Kuanzia jana, leo, of course, hizo arrests zimefanyika, but I don't think anyone died.
So far, nothing has happened. Nothing as
we are reporting
nasty as
none of
that.
that.
Yeah,
yes.
It's just that 11 people were arrested in Nairobi. Yeah, kabla waanze maandamano wakashikwa tu hapo.
What do you need to know
Yes.
when going, to protest huko Kenya, huko town?
Huko Kenya.
Sasa ni kama tuko shafika Singapore. Anyway, we are in Kenya. Ukitaka kwenda ku protest, we had that conversation here. What you need to know ukienda ku protest. You can catch that on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook, TV47 Kenya as well on YouTube. We are back on YouTube. TV47 Digital on X. You can tag us. My handle is at Ann_Odida.
Mine is at Fred Ndimuli. Use the hashtag TV47 Breakfast and the hashtag Story Nietu.
All right. It's also Earth Day today. And how you can celebrate this day is just to do things that are protecting the environment. So let's take a look at the state of the weather. All right, Nandi, today it's very much going to rain. Scattered thunderstorms expected. This morning it's 14 degrees. Highs of 26 degrees. Today, Nandi County, Nairobi. It's also likely to rain. 16 degrees this morning. Highs of 24 degrees expected in Nairobi. In Marsabit, it's a mostly cloudy day today. It's 20 degrees this morning. Highs of 28 degrees expected in Marsabit today. That's Nandi, Nairobi, and Marsabit counties. Nyeri, it's also going to rain today, 14 degrees this morning. It's a very cold day there today, 22 degrees are the highs expected in Nyeri. Kitui, it's also going to rain, 18 degrees this morning, highs of 26 degrees. And in Vihiga County, scattered thunderstorms expected there today, highs of 27 degrees. And this morning it's 17 degrees. That's the state of the weather. It's a chilly day today and it's likely to rain. All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day.
Bring your A game always, not just sometimes. Showing up fully every time guarantees growth, trust, and security in your role.
All right, bring your A game always. Always. Hata kama usiki kwenda kazi, go there, uende ufanye kitu imekupeleka. A game, always. Let's come back and take a look at the local dailies now.
right, twende magazetini, watu wazungumzia nini leo, and we start off with the Daily Nation this morning. CS and 2 MPs linked to 20 billion shilling land grab. Who are these? So the images of 3 people here. Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen, Kapseret MP Oscar Sudi, and Gatundu North MP Elijah Kuroria. So high stakes. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen and the other 2 gentlemen that I've mentioned have been dragged into a long-running family feud over prime land, which hosts the popular Paradise Lost Recreational Center in Runda. A court has been petitioned to order the anti-graft agency to investigate the trio on accusations of abetting the grabbing of 300 acres. Wow, that story is on page 3. Kidogo hapa tunashughulika na protest, kuna mahali inataka kupotea. The story is on page 4. Cha tuone wanasema nini. So the petitioners say the Interior CS is protecting those who have invaded this land in Runda. Mr. Daniel Mwangi Mbogu and his daughter Wanjiro Mwangi have asked the High Court in Kiambu to order the EACC to investigate the CS and those 2 MPs over the alleged grabbing of 300-acre Kasarini coffee farm on which the Paradise Lost Recreational Center is situated. Wow, interesting.
Runda. Si uko chini nini? Kamakis. Runda.
Iko tu hapa Dindigwa, si mbali sana. Paradise Lost iko tu hapa.
Unajua kutapata land, hata kununua land in Runda, how hard it is.
Can you imagine 300 acres of land?
Hata kuipata tu.
Have you ever been to Paradise Lost?
Yes.
They even have a water body in there. Uko bado ndo kahawa bado inapandwa Kiambu. Watu wasema Kiambu ni shamba la mawe. You'll be shocked. A lot of greenery and coffee farms in there. Na kuna mtu sasa anaiangalia hivi anaimezea mate.
Some of you are living life.
I tell you, 300 acres just like that. Anyway, but that story about protests also makes it to the front page of the Daily Nation. And these are, allow me to say, very familiar scenes. Anti-riot police wako pale, wamevaa helmet, wamevaa anti-riot gear. Now they're dragging people on the floor, on the ground. And yesterday they arrested about 11 people in Nairobi CBD. So the regional police commander, Isa Mohamud, says, yes, they were aware that watu wamesema wataenda protest, lakini hakukuwa na notification to the police. That's what they're saying. Because the debate has always been, there's a right to picket. There's a right to protest. There's a right to express yourself. Mbona tu hata watu wakipiga tu kelele pale town hivi. Askari wanakuja wamevaa kuanzia juu mpaka chini haraka sana.
There's that right, but then there's limitations to that as well. You have to be peaceful.
Peaceful protest.
Peaceful.
Hao walifanya nini? Sijasikia wamechapa mtu.
Kama ni noise pollution. I don't know. Ni labda watuambie ni kwa nini sasa mlikuwa mnaketi hapo wakiwa arrest.
It's the same debates we were having in 2024,
yes.
2025. Do we have the right to protest? Can we go to the streets and express ourselves?
Yeah.
It's the same thing we are facing for the third year in a row. Yeah. Na tulisema it's like tumeingia ile season of protests. Between now and the end of June. Mambo mengi tutajionea.
Yes, so limitations kama rights can be limited to protect national security, public safety, public order and the rights of others. So kama hakukuwa na public order or if at all kulikuwa na scare ya watu kupoteza mabiashara au kuharibika.
So now that we saw what happened last year, and remember, this use of force by police is still a subject of discussion. Wale walikuwa wameambiwa watakuwa compensated, wale waliuawa, wale waliumia, that is yet to happen. So it is still a conversation that is very much alive. Police conduct, police brutality, hizo bado zinaendelea tu. So nothing much has changed between 2024 and this year. So those are the main stories given prominence on the front page. Nikiingia huku ndani, another woman nurses acid attack injuries. Wow. Medics describe acid injuries as among the most severe because the chemical continues to destroy tissue until it is fully washed off. A woman has suffered serious injuries, 45%. She's called Mercy Awor. Yeah, alichomwa na acid. Na sijui kwa nini watu huenda acid. Kasirika na mtu unamwagia acid. Ndio asikae vizuri vile alikuwa anakaa. Ama ilikuwa nini? Si upige tu mtu ngumi. Ama ngumi itapona. Ukilimwa ngumi siku 2 inapona. Ukimwagia acid, that's permanent.
Lakini we don't advocate for violence.
Hata kurusha ngumi.
Hiyo unajua unawapatia option B.
Ana boxing, ndondi, na kama ni ndondi. Na kama ni ndondi?
Na ukimuua in the process of ndondi.
Ya ndondi ni mashindano ya sport.
Unamuua,
boxing.
alafu unaenda kamiti.
Anyway, that story about Murkomen and the other two MPs is there on the inside pages. Na hii gazeti leo iko na mambo mingi. Ile college inaitwa KIM. It faces closure. Yeah. This is Kenya Institute of Management. Yeah. The business school is staring at the biggest threat to its existence after its accreditation was revoked. Wow. Watu wengi sana wamesomea KIM. Sasa itafungwa.
Lakini wamepetition.
Alafu unaulizwa ulienda shule gani? Ile nilienda ilifungwa.
KIM. KIM sasa hiyo hata employment inakuaje?
Wow. Which school did you go to? Can you imagine if the university you went to was closed down?
Kenya University cannot be closed. Technical University of Kenya cannot be closed. I went to those two schools.
You never know. Kim was also a big
university. Mimi ndo nakwambia story ni yangu.
Story ni yetu bana. Story ni yetu. On the back page, Matter Sports, Mashemeji Derby countdown. A return leg will be played at the Nyayo National Stadium. This is Gor Mahia versus AFC Leopards. Stakes are high as big rivals prepare for crunch clash. Hiyo itakuwa siku gani hapa? Nasema AFC Leopards wako locked neck and neck this week. Wataenda Mashemeji Derby, which will carry more significance because ule mwenye atashinda ni kama ile game ya Arsenal na Man City. Ile ilichezwa juzi. Wale walishindwa ni kama wamepoteza kikombe. Ni kama, sijasema wamepoteza. Ni kama.
Aya.
Daily Nation.
The Standard, still the CS for Interior is on the front page of this newspaper. Vile tu yuko hapa kwa Daily Nation. But this time,
mambo tofauti.
Mambo tofauti. Playing clever. Goons paradise. When he appeared before members of parliament yesterday, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen either misunderstood his brief or, as the lawyer is, preferred ambiguity that let him dodge responsibility. Now, tasked with overseeing security, he pointed fingers everywhere, but at the office he leads. He branded some lawmakers warlords, quote unquote, cast governors as sponsors of crime, and accused the judiciary of leniency towards gangsters. Yet he named no suspects, pursued no ringleaders, and offered no clear evidence of decisive enforcement against the criminals. Now, Mount Elgon MP, Fred Kapondi, is quoted here, and he says it is very clear that you have all the solutions and all that remains is implementation. For instance, you know those that are funding the goons, by not flagging their names, you are perpetuating the problem. He said our politicians, kila mtu yuko na bouncer. Now these bouncers now ndo goons.
And he knows it.
And he knows it.
He's in charge of Interior, so he's in charge of all the security agencies, either way. So he knows all these things.
Yes.
But has done nothing till now.
Si ni bouncers tu.
So kama yeye anakuja tu complain like everyone else, nani atasaidia nani?
Ni wewe, ni nyinyi sasa wenye nimekuja mbele yenu muone venye mta drop your bouncers so that we can have order in the country, because it's your bouncers who are doing whatever.
And I as a CS for Interior cannot do anything about it.
Yes, because it's you. Nyinyi ndio mko na wao, nyinyi ndio mmewaweka, mnawalipa.
Ndio bana anaambiwa playing clever hapo.
Yes.
Anajua ukweli lakini hakuna kitu anafanya.
That's what that story is about. It has been captured extensively on page 4 of the Standard this morning. On page 2, no one claims credit for flopped Gen Z opposition-backed protest. Hii ni ilikuwa opposition-backed protest kweli.
And I think hapo ndio kuna misinformation, because according to what we heard, our opposition walisema they will call for mass protests starting next week.
Yes.
So they gave a date. I don't know why they were expected, and I've seen that expectation on a number of the papers, that they would show up yesterday. Ni wapi walisema watakuwa kwa street?
Lakini unajua mimi nimeona an opposition leader akisimama mahali kwa gari akisema Gen Z jamani mtusaidie.
Nyinyi endeni kwa street siku yenu, si tutakuja baada.
Hapana. Hii ni kuita, imagine these guys wakienda streets opposition, I'm 100% sure they don't intend to go there by themselves. Speak out.
Yes.
They're expecting Gen Zs to also show up.
Well, but let's be fair to them. Because they said they will call for mass protests.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
The issues are the same. High cost of living, hiking fuel prices and stuff like that. But they said they will call. They have not called.
They've not called.
Yes. So why are journalists expecting them to show up yesterday?
Rudisha mkono.
But they did not say they would be there.
They did not say, but I expect you nikikuja na mkate ulete chai. Yes, that story is on page 2.
Okay.
Parents says IPOA for listing shot minor as dead. Oh, wow. That's another story on page 3, that Michael Odongo told court he saw his daughter's name among the dead while watching the Director of Public Prosecutions on television. So Odongo said that the child is alive and a survivor of police brutality. It's giving the other time when the president asked if that Kitengele boy who was shot, was it 17 times, was still alive.
The question is that kuna mtu alikuwa anauliza, because they're saying they're going to compensate some of these people. Who came up with the list? I would really want to know who came up with the list, what criteria they used. If at all they're coming up with names of people who are still alive, and they're saying these are the people who died, what exactly are they talking about? Yeah. Have they even gone a step further to establish whether these people are dead or alive? Yeah. Now make a official list, so probably that person is said to be compensated, and the person is alive. Interesting.
Hapo inakuwa mwechichi sasa. The Standard also captures that story on Kim. Tiveta closure leaves 10,000 Kim students stuck as learning halted. It's a story on page 11. It's a big story as well. On the back page, perfect chance for Man City to take control of title race. Hawa ndo wale walituonyesha dust. And that's the Standard.
All right. That question on opposition leaders failing to show up yesterday for the protest is what is the main headline on the front page of the Star today. So they say Gachagua and Kalonzo missing as police arrest protesters. Mimi sijui ni wapi Kalonzo na Gachagua walisema watakuwa kwa street. I think there's a lot of misreporting today. Yeah?
Okay.
Opposition chiefs keep safe distance. Fine, that's true. They kept away, leaving young generals to face the music. So why were they expected to show up? Had they promised to show up yesterday? And why are journalists expecting them to show up? Wale walisema they'll call for mass protests. They will call. Hawaja call. So hii story iko on page 2. Kuna picha nyingi za watu wakishikwa. Kuna mwingine hapa alikuwa ameenda protests na suti. Sasa anawekwa kwa lori na suti yake. Yeah. Opposition chiefs keep a safe distance and leave young generals to face the music. All right. Alarm as new census puts number of dogs at 7 million. That's a survey. Kenya is home to about 7.46 million dogs roaming its towns and villages. A new national survey shows. Uko kwenye wanahitaji zile mbwa zenye hazina nyumbani kwao, zinazungukanga tu kila mahali.
Bosco.
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 Na Simba. Motina, ingine nilisikia mahali kwingine wanaita Motina. They're about 7 million.
Yetu actually ilikuwa inaitwa Rex.
7.4 million, that's about 7.5 million dogs. Zinakimbia tu huko. Anyway. Murkomen alleges governors are running goon departments. That's a question people are asking. He told members of the National Assembly this yesterday. And if at all you know, as a CS Interior, that governors are doing this, what have you done as the Interior CS? That's a question going back to him. Yeah. Kule ndani wana mambo gani ingine sasa? Very interesting stories hapa. Wako na ile gossip column. Top water farms face EACC probe as MPs flag 15 billion shilling loss. I'm told most of these water companies for major towns, they don't even own the water sources that they run. Like even in Nairobi, Nairobi Water does kidogo sana. Athi Water does more for Nairobi. Poll agency plans foolproof network for 2027 election is another story. Remember, we are counting down to the end of that mass voter registration drive that began at the end of last month. Watu wamejiregister kweli?
Inaisha April 28th.
Yes, inaisha hiyo ni next week.
Next week, yes.
Watu wameimba hapa wako kadi, wewe uko na kadi ya kupiga kura. Je, umejisajili kama piga kura? Hapo ndio swali. Ama at least, even if you had registered earlier, have you confirmed your details that you are indeed a registered voter? Yeah? Siku zinaenda kuisha.
Confirm kama pia uko na ile voting. Inaitwanga wapi? Pale kwenye hiyo room ambapo unaenda kuvote shule.
Polling station ile.
Polling station, right.
Unaweza enda kupiga kura siku hiyo ambapo hapana wewe sio hapa. Ukiangalia unajipata huko.
Korunda huko kwenye land na kwa grab.
And that's the Star. Fresh, independent, different. Grab yourself a copy for only 60 shillings here in Kenya.
Taifa Leo, padri na shehe kutetea Makenzi. Hii ni ile habari ya Shakahola. Mhubiri huyo tata ameambia koti kuwa atawaita waadhiri Daktari Evelyn Asala, Daktari Marian Kalsi na Nelson Sitonik ili kutoa fasiri za kitaalamu kuhusu kesi inayomkabili. Aidha, amewaita viongozi wa kidini wanaojumuisha Padri Felix Atinda wa Katoliki na shehe ambaye bado hajataja. Huyu shehe ni Sheikh nafikiri. Kule juu anasema kwamba mshukiwa mkuu wa mauaji ya Shakahola amewaita wahadhiri, kasisi wa Katoliki, sheikh na mwanasaikolojia kutestify. Na kwa nini hawakumbushi wa Kenya jina lake? Huyu anaitwa Paul Mackenzie. Hiyo habari hapo ya protest pia imezungumziwa katika ukurasa wa mbele. Kionjo cha hasira ya mafuta ni kionjo tu, Taifa Leo wanaita hivyo. Vitokezi zaidi, Man City kupita Arsenal wakishinda Burnley leo. Wana nafasi ya kufikisha alama 70 katika EPL na kuwazidia Gunners kwa magoli. Kwa katika ukurasa wa 20 habari hiyo.
Hey.
Inaitwa mpira ya wazungu.
Mpira ya wazungu inatupea pressure. Kaa
chonjo, mafuriko njiani. Idara ya utabiri wa hali ya hewa yasema mvua kubwa inatarajiwa kunyesha kuanzia leo hadi Aprili tarehe 27, ambayo inaweza kuandamana na upepo mkali, mafuriko ya ghafla na hata radi. Sasa kaa chonjo. Boda huripoti wizi feki wa pikipiki kuhepa mikopo. Oh wow. Uchunguzi wa baini baadhi ya waliopata pikipiki kwa mkopo wanavyozificha kisha kudai zimeibiwa.
Aha. Ndo wasilipe.
Wasilipe pole pole. Asimalizie. Kuna habari hapa, KUSPS ya waonya wazazi. Ni KUCCPS, ile ya wanafunzi wahitimu.
Waliita jina ngumu.
KUSPS.
Siku zetu ilikuwa tu JAB.
JAB. Shirika la uteuzi wa kozi na vyuo vikuu lalalamika wazazi kuwapa watoto shinikizo. Wazazi nyinyi mnaambia mtoto anataka kusoma education, mnamwambia aende afanye medicine, analemewa, anawacha shule katikati. Sasa hakuna ni venye anaweza jisaidia. Sasa KUSPS inawawarn hapo. Na vile vile ile habari ya Murkomen na Sudi katika sakata ya unyakuzi ya ardhi ni habari imezungumziwa katika ukurasa wa pili wa gazeti hili, gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Tukiangazia gazeti la People Daily today, how reality is forcing Ruto's retreat. They say amid mounting pressure in the wake of escalating fuel prices and a deepening cost of living crisis, observers say the president is beginning to look politically constrained, if not outright on the defensive. Remember, he had made quite a number of promises in his manifesto, in the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, but mambo inageuka. Mambo ugeuka. Semanga, you always have a plan until you're punched in the face. Ulikuwa umesema tutafanya hivi, tunafanya hivi, pop. Strait of Hormuz happens. Sasa mambo inapenduka. That's what is there on the story on page 4. Stuck in the muddle, they call it. So, President, who is in Italy right now, inakani kama mambo imemgeukia. 17 months, no, not 17 months, 14 months,
14,
next election. Pale Senate report reveals a 15.6 billion shilling loss as water farms near collapse. Na kuna the triple border turbine at Mandera. That's a story on County Watch, page 13 of the People Daily. That's the People Daily today.
All right, Business Daily, multinationals start wiring 42 billion shillings NSC dividends. Vodacom sets the pace with 13.6 billion shillings Safaricom pay, and shareholder returns to conglomerates jump to 11.7%. All right, the parent firms will start receiving the billions of shillings from Tuesday, a boost to the multinationals who have also seen their shares gain at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Na wako hapa wote, Peter Ndego, Safaricom CEO, Jen Karuku of EABL, and Abdi Mohamed of Absa Bank. Borrowers face fresh checks before digital loan limit raises. That banks and digital lenders will have to review borrowers' financial ability afresh before reviewing their loan limits upwards under fresh draft rules aimed at curbing predatory lending. Financial regulators, including the CBK and the Sacco Society Regulatory Authority, that is SASRA, say lenders will have to evaluate borrowers' income, expenses, and assets afresh before upgrading their loan limit. This is interesting because tunaona sasa the rise of Shylock, and digital lending apps are at our disposal. So currently banks and digital lenders increase borrowers' limits based on repayment of previous loans without checking on the borrower's ability to service the new facility.
Yes. Last week, the CBK, the central bank, approved 30 more digital lenders. So wamekuwa wengi pia.
Wamekuwa wengi, yes. Interest nayo pia haicheki na wewe. On the ticker, why regulator revoked Kim diplomas and permits. That's another story on page 2. Non-tax revenue drops as e-citizen windfall fades. And finally, court faults life-saving medicines license cancellations. The High Court has quashed a decision by the state's PPB, that is Pharmacy and Poison Sport, to cancel a pharmaceutical company's license for the manufacture of distribution of 40 life-saving medicines on claims of counterfeiting. That's the Business Daily.
Right, so those are the local dailies. Let's cross the border and take a look at what's headlining in our neighboring countries. And we start off in Uganda, Kampala. The Daily Monitor today talks about URA's $10 million question. So a revelation by URA, which is Uganda, the equivalent of KRA in Uganda, that it recovered $10 million. It's about 37 billion Ugandan money, smuggled through Entebbe Airport, and has come under scrutiny after sources at the Aviation Security, which combines civilian and military intelligence, told the publication they were unaware of the discovery. Jamaa anapita na $10 million kwa airport. Unajua kuna kuanga na cap of how much cash you can enter a country with. Lakini lazima money launderers wanakuwa kila mahali. So at what point did URA contact security before handing over the money to the Bank of Uganda? Why did URA reveal the whistleblower's identity and not the suspects? So ule jamaa alipiga firimbi kuhusu kitu ndo amejulikana, lakini the suspect hawasemi ni nani. Anyway, that is Uganda Daily Monitor. Still in Uganda, let's take a look at the New Vision. This one talks about matters education there on the front page. A-level. Experts propose mix of arts and sciences. The same debate we're having in Kenya with the CBE and how pathways will work for our learners is the same that we're getting in Uganda. So we're to conference, they come up with one nice education system in East Africa, such that I can go to Tanzania or Uganda and still receive the same level of education that I can get in Kenya. So NCDC wants new system for subjects combination, curriculum pia maswala hayo. A loop of flags of vehicles for districts for extension services, another story there. But matters education given prominence in Uganda, na hiyo pesa ambayo ilipita kwa border Entebbe Airport. Tukiingia Tanzania, moment of truth, they ask. This is the front page of The Citizen. So the Commission of Inquiry that investigated violence incidents linked to the October 29 last year elections is tomorrow expected to hand over its final report to President Samia Suluhu Hassan. Ile inaitwa Judge Chande. He's a chairman, Mohamed Chande Othman. Ile vita ilikuwa huko 29th of October after the elections. The report is out kesho. How Samia plans to empower food vendors across Tanzania. Hapa anaonekana ameshika mitungi ya gesi. Anawapatia gazeti la The Citizen. The other paper there in Tanzania is Mwananchi. Habari ni ile pale, wanasema ripoti ya Jaji Chande kugusa maeneo haya. Mwenyekiti abainisha sura yake itakavyokuwa, aeleza mambo ambayo wameagusia na ambayo hawatagusa kuwasilisha kesho kwa rais. So ripoti ile ya mambo yaliyotokea baada ya uchaguzi mkuu kule Tanzania Oktoba mwaka jana, ripoti ile iko tayari, itakuwa ikipatiwa Rais Suluhu Hassan hapo kesho. Na hiyo ndio habari ambayo imepewa kipaumbele kule Tanzania. Turejelee hapa nchini, tuangazie masuala ya karakacha sasa, na tunaanza na karakacha gani? The Standard. Is this a Standard? Let me confirm if this is a Standard. Pale kuna moja. Tuanze na hii ya People Daily. Okay, director amesema anapenda sana hii ya People Daily. Sielewi ni kwa nini, lakini masuala ya wanawake. So People Daily, the caricature is about old school politics in 2027, men versus women. So there's someone seated on the seat of president na amekelea mguu kwa kiti ya naibu wake, deputy president. Nakumbuka President William Ruto had promised that he might reserve the seat of the deputy president for a woman. That if at all the president is a man, then the deputy becomes a woman, and vice versa. Kini wanawake wamekaa pale wanasema reserved for women wapi? Mutaona maneno. 2027 old school politics. That's a People Daily.
All right, the one on the Standard now talks about your story of protest. That the DCP party leader is here and anasema we'll have nationwide mass protests. Lakini huku chini jinsi wakienda ku protest, the Standard wanasema DCP leader anasema young people you have my blessings. Na commentator anasema coward of the country.
Lakini hapa mimi naona hapa wanawaonea, because these politicians did not say that they have to be on the streets jana. Walisema they will call for mass protests. We'll have nationwide mass protests. Tarehe hawajapeana.
Hiyo ni Standard.
The Star, mambo ni yale masuala ya protests. Watu wanatandikwa na marungu pale na polisi, wanazungumzia masuala ya mafuta, bei ya mafuta imepanda. Wakitokea jana vile walitokea 11 wakashikwa wakapelekwa korokoroni na wakalimwa na marungu pale town. Haraka upesi. the cartoon or the Star?
All right, finally, the one on the Daily Nation. The president is there with his deputy president, but the deputy president anakuwa anamekelewa bait hapo.
Yeah.
Vote rich fishing spot ni pale
Mlima Kenya.
Mlima Kenya, lakini the famous ni fire si fire. Yeah. Fire iko kwa kichwa bwana.
So inasemekana Rais Ruto anangojea
anamtumia, sema tu hivyo. Anamtumia kufish
from the the Swahili word for fishing. Kuvua samaki.
Kuvua. Kuvua watu wa Mlima Kenya.
So yule ndio ile bait.
Yes. The deputy president, fire si fire.
Fire si fire.
Fire iko kwa kichwa though. These are the stories making headlines in the country and of course regionally. Today being a Wednesday, we'll also be having a conversation on matters of the heart. It's Relationship Wednesday today. Tunaongelelea, are we too emotionally damaged to sustain healthy relationships? That will be coming later on, starting 8:30 up until 10 a.m. So do stay tuned for that. But coming up next, State of the Nation.
State of the Nation, of course, the biggest discussion around the protests. Have we just entered the season of protests in Kenya? Politicians are promising to call for mass protests next week. Others are saying 3-day protests when it comes to June 25th. And what we saw yesterday. So yes, keep your comments coming even as we continue with that discussion. TV47 Kenya on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. It is TV47 Digital. On X, use the hashtag TV47 Breakfast, hashtag Story Ni Yetu. Also, you can tag us at Fred Ndimuli on X, at @Ann_Dida. Tuangazie traffic kidogo hapa Nairobi kabla tuende for a break. All right. And so the traffic situation, if you look at the major roads in the city, and Thika Road not looking so bad today. We can see that stretch at KU. Pale Clayworks Pier getting busy, but after that it's smooth all the way past Githurai, past Kasarani. And just as you get to that area, the Utalii Drift, Pale Survey, inaanza kushika. But apparently today it has not affected Kiambu Road. Ni watu wa Thika Road ndo wanaumia sana sana. Let's go and take a look at the other roads. Huko mali unanipeleka wananga shida ya traffic. Wewe tuende huko Jogoo Road, huko ndio watu wengi wako bwana. Huyu jamaa mwenye anafanya hii traffic leo ni kama ako down kiasi. Wacha nikwambie barabara vile zinaenda. Traffic on Jogoo Road not looking so bad today. Yes, I can see that section of Jogoo Road, pale BAMBA Market, getting busy as you get towards the City Stadium roundabout. Pale nyuma kidogo tuende, endelea hivyo, pale kuna Makadara nikuambie. That's Jogoo Road, that entire stretch from the Makadara low courts, not so busy this morning. Inakaa ni kama leo traffic si mbaya sana. Most roads in the CBD. I can see sections of Outer Ring Road also looking good this morning. Na hata Mombasa Road all the way from the airport towards the city center is looking green, so not so bad this morning. All right, and that's the traffic situation on major roads in the city. Probably later on kutakuwa na shida, but remember, for State of the Nation after the break, we'll be having quite a number of people. Let me tell you my panelists this morning. Joe Nyoto, Senator Murang'a County, Woman Rep Nairobi Esther Passaris will also be here with us alongside political analyst Fwamba NC Fwamba. So do stand by for that conversation after this short break.
All right, later on, once again, we'll be having that conversation on Relationship Wednesday. Are we too emotionally damaged to sustain healthy relationships? Starting 8:30 a.m. all the way to 10 a.m. 0793267279 is our WhatsApp line, very active 24/7. So do send us a voice note or a video of yourself. What do you think? See you after the break.
Hey, my name is Chef Avraj, and today on Bachelor's Kitchen we're going to do scrambled egg on toast. A favorite for many, so I'm just going to take you through my ingredients today. I've got bread that I'm going to toast, cilantro, dania, tomatoes. I've got cream. You could use milk instead of cream, butter. I've got black pepper, salt, my eggs. I'm now going to switch on my gas. I'm going to put it on low to start off with. I just need my pan to warm up a little bit as I break the eggs. Depending on how hungry you are, 4 or 5 eggs is good enough. I'm actually just going to do a scramble out of 3 eggs. So what I'm going to do first is put in my eggs. There's several other ways of doing it. People actually like to beat the eggs first. I'm just going to increase the heat slightly. Put in a bit of butter. Literally scrambling the eggs. Just make sure you break the yolks. And just make sure you're not using a very high flame, as it will burn your eggs very quickly. So you need to keep checking on them, keep stirring them, don't let it go. It's always advisable to use a non-stick pan. At this stage, I'm just going to put a bit of salt, a bit of pepper, a bit of my dania. I'll put it on extremely low heat while I do my toast. You can actually apply butter onto your toast. If you have a toaster at home, actually just put them into the toaster. If you like it a bit crunchier, yes, you can carry on with it. I don't want them to dry up, so I'm just going to switch off the gas, the eggs. At this stage, I'm just going to add a bit of cream. You can add milk as well, just to give that moisture into the egg, because it keeps drying off as it cooks. So I'm now going to plate. I've just placed my toast on it. I'm going to put a bit of tomatoes just to garnish the plate. There we go, and just on the dash of dania. Here we have our meal, scrambled eggs and toast.
On the next episode of House Number 9.
You know, I still don't understand why you say these things don't matter.
I keep telling you, just because we are full doesn't mean people stop coming in. Simple.
Control is not the problem.
What is?
Like I said, assumptions is.
You've adopted the veranda again, eh?
Doesn't ask questions.
Real time in the now.
For the first time. Hakuna mtu amenirushia sahani.
We survive by, solving problems as they come. Do you understand?
That sounds risky.
Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. on TV 47.
When someone chokes, advise them to cough. And if this is not effective, bend them forward and give them about 5 back blows to try and clear the blockage. And if they're still choking, give them up to 5 tummy pushes by holding them around the waist and pushing inwards and upwards above their belly button. If they are still choking, call for medical assistance.
Right, welcome back and good morning once again. This is TV 47 Breakfast with me, Fred Ndimuli. And time for us to take a look at the dailies this morning. We're privileged to have with us today for a panel Esther Passaris, who's a woman representative Nairobi County. Karibu sana. Madam Passaris. Also with us is political analyst Fwamba NC Fwamba. Karibu. We're hoping one more person will be joining the panel. But the big conversation, if you look at all the front pages today, is what happened yesterday. And it would appear we've just gone back, or rather we've entered the season of protests in Kenya. Yesterday we saw the first such kind of event this year. Quite a number of people arrested in town, yet questions do arise on the provisions of the Constitution. Because police were very fast to arrest whoever was on the streets, and you can see that, and this is what features on all the front pages. Police arresting some of those people who showed up on the streets. Of course, they had indicated that they would do this in protest at the hiked fuel prices. Politicians too have promised to call for demonstration. The DCP party leader, Gachagua, said that he would call for nationwide protests over the same concerns, yet he's not mentioned any date. The ODM wing that is referred to as Linda Mwananchi also promised to call for 3-day protests around the June 25th date, which will be marking the second anniversary of the 2024 June protests over the finance bill. And that's where we want to begin this discussion, because the question does arise. Article 37 of the Constitution still stands, and it provides for every person has the right to peaceably and unarmed to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. We've been discussing this over and over and over, and we see that the first instance of people going to the streets, police are there in anti-riot gear, ready to arrest them. So who's wrong here?
Both. Both. But, you know, we have to, you know, first of all, I mean, I'm in ODM. Every time we've had a failed election, presidential election, or we feel aggrieved in the elections, we took to the streets. And I recall at one point, even the then President Uhuru Kenyatta issued a statement from State House saying that, you know, I actually saw Pasaris and her team walking in front of Anniversary Tower, and they had no stones. But then when you come with stones and when you start harassing the public, or you know, stealing or breaking into shops and being absolutely disorderly, we will make arrests. So it's a thin line. I think when you have a city like Nairobi, which is densely populated, which has a very, very high rate of unemployment, it's very easy to even have organic, sporadic people joining for different reasons. Some are joining because they've been sent by politicians. Others are joining because they have nothing else to do. Nobody in their right mind who's got a job is going to be on the streets, okay? Others are joining because they want to loot. They want to take advantage.
But you say no one in their right minds would be on the streets. We saw young Kenyans go to the streets.
No.
Are you saying that their concerns were not legitimate?
No one who, look, we have legitimate concerns. And for me, it's when I say no one in their right mind would want to be on the streets, especially if you are employed, all right? If you're employed and you do not want to be on the street because you're being motivated to come so that you could create havoc, right? Because we seem to think, and the Constitution did not want this, we seem to think that the best way for us to to get the government to listen to us is not an orderly demonstration. It is a chaotic demonstration. But then in that chaos, right, lots of things happen. Increased heightened sexual gender-based violence. People who also have rights for protection, shop owners, retailers, street vendors, okay? A woman who's trying to get to hospital because she's pregnant cannot get to hospital because the streets are... So we have rights, you know, one right should not infringe on another's rights. So for me, I feel that we need, and it's going to take a long time for us to have a picketing that gets government to understand that there's a problem, all right? And a picketing that is peaceful, presentation of petitions. I mean, I've done it. I've been on the streets many times. So we have political inspired demonstrations, and then we have issue-based demonstrations. So for instance, we call them walks, you know, we call them walks. There's demonstrations and there's walks. So you have people who come on the streets to walk because they have an issue, all right? And they want to send a petition to Parliament or to the necessary office. Then you have people who call political inspired demonstrations where they're trying to capitalize, pretending that they actually care about an issue, especially now. And then, you know, allowing all chaos to break loose.
It would appear now we will be revisiting this conversation every year. Issues to do with the police excesses, the kind of forced police use against protesters and demonstrators. Do you see it changing? Or this provision of the law that we have, Article 37 of our Constitution, are we making nonsense of it?
As a democracy, we have progressed a lot, especially since the 2010 Constitution. And that's where we got that provision in the Bill of Rights, Chapter 4 of the Constitution, that covers all the rights that are to the human being or to the Kenyan citizen. Particularly, Article 37 talks about that right to assembly, picketing, and presentation of petitions. But again, no provision in the Bill of Rights is supposed to be read in isolation. If you read Article 37, you must also read Article 24, which provides for the limits to the rights that are put in that are in the Constitution. Therefore, even as you demonstrate, it's important that you do not interfere with other people's rights, like business owners or other people who are going on with their businesses as usual. Getting back to the demonstration that happened yesterday, or that which was supposed to happen yesterday, the whole issue was around the fuel hikes. But within a very short period of time, the president had made interventions that addressed the issue of what had skyrocketed over a very short time. And then there's also mechanisms that have been put in place. Therefore, the whole reason of that demonstration did not exist anymore. But again,
why would you say it does not exist? There are people who are now experiencing hiked bus fares.
What usually happens is that if there's an
Despite
issue,
the interventions.
If there's an issue, there's also a situation of understanding. If you look at the global issues that are happening, they are easy to justify the kind of challenges that we are facing. But again, we have also seen deliberate intentions and efforts by the government to intervene and offer those mitigations. Going to the streets is not a solution in such a context. The context that is supposed to be addressed is the issue of whether the government is doing something about it or not. And so far, the verdict is that the government is doing something about it.
Allow me to welcome Senator Joe Nyoto onto the set. Senator Nyoto is Senator Murang'a County. And even as he joins us, because the question is about the provisions of the law. Every person has a right, peaceably and unarmed, to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. The argument by my first two panelists is that probably those who were on the streets yesterday were not as peaceful. This is a story we covered here as TV47. Let's watch this story so that we can tell how chaotic were these demonstrators for police action to be taken against them.
The aftermath of the protest dubbed Reject Fuel Hike in Nairobi. A handful of protesters were bundled into police trucks after attempted demonstrations were quickly contained. Despite widespread online mobilization, turnout in Nairobi remained low, with only a small group of demonstrators taking to the streets, waving flags and placards. The protest lasted just a few hours before fizzling out, and by midday, normal operations had resumed, with businesses reopening and police maintaining patrols across the city. 11 activists were arrested in Nairobi. According to Nairobi Police Commander Issa Mahamud, the National Police Service had not been notified of any planned demonstrations.
So far, we have arrested 11.
11, where are they? Which area specifically?
In Kitengela, Kajiado County, a brief standoff was reported in the afternoon as a small group of protesters attempted to demonstrate against the high cost of living driven by fuel prices. A similar situation was witnessed in Nyahururu, where attempts to stage protests briefly disrupted transport and businesses before calm was restored. The demonstrations had been organized online following the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority EPRA's announcement of new fuel prices effective April 15th to May 14th. The prices were later revised, bringing petrol to 197.60 shillings and diesel to 196.63 shillings in Nairobi. However, the demonstrations were not witnessed in some parts of the country. Today's events mirror previous attempts that have struggled to gain widespread traction, even as pressure continues to mount on the government over the rising cost of living. Sheila Chelangat for TV 47.
Yes, that story by Sheila Chelagat paints a picture of what happened in the CBD. We saw people with flags carrying placards complaining about high fuel prices. But according to my first panelists, they say anything that turns chaotic then calls for police intervention. How chaotic was that?
If you look at the so-called demonstrations of yesterday, you confirm the point I was making, that Kenyans were not so much interested in getting to the streets yesterday because they had understood the explanation by the government and the efforts that have been put in place and the context and circumstances under which we are getting this fuel increment.
So does it make it wrong for the few who showed up?
Therefore, when you look at the numbers, you easily conclude that these were people who were pursuing their own selfish agenda. But Kenyans are very intelligent nowadays. They have seen that there was no reason at all to demonstrate yesterday. Demonstrating is a democratic right and is in the Constitution.
Okay.
Yes, but for as long as you are peaceful and you are not interfering with the other people's rights.
Senator Nyoto, let me not say your party leader because you're still a member of the UDA party. But the DCP party leader has said that they will be calling for nationwide mass protests. But seeing the standard that has been set by the police yesterday, that immediately people show up on the streets, they are there with anti-riot gear and very quick to arrest them. Do you anticipate that that is the relationship we'll be having between police and protesters going forward, now that we say we've entered the season of protests?
Thank you, Fred. And sometimes it's very disappointing to hear maybe some leaders, leaders supporting, situations that are actually illegal and unfortunate. I've watched that story and I've not seen, just like you have observed, I've not seen any young person that was armed with anything other than maybe a flag or something, a phone. This is the same case, this is the same thing that happened in 2024 when very many young Kenyans were killed. I mean, I don't know, I don't understand why my colleagues, my co-panelists would say that the young men and women should not have demonstrated. I don't see where police action, was necessary. I mean, the police should have just been there, guarding to see to it that nobody, of course, interferes with people's businesses and lives and properties. But you cannot tell me that anybody just carrying a placard and just protesting, that you need to arrest them and, club them, and the kind of thing that I've seen there. I mean, there cannot be any justification for that, Fred. Because as you say, as I found you saying, Article 37 provides, it's a right. As long as the only condition is that you should be unarmed and you should be peaceable. You should not be attacking people. You should not be, armed with anything. And that is the only thing that is required. And I've not seen them violate any of those particular conditions or circumstances for a lawful, protest. I've heard my brother here say that they ought not have, demonstrated because the government is doing something. The government is not supposed to do something. The government should protect Kenyans in terms of even, economic hardships. What we should be, what we must tell government, and my brother here should hear that and maybe tell government if government listens to him, is that we need not have been in this particular situation in the first place. Nobody doesn't know that, of course, the reason given for this hike in fuel prices is whatever is happening in the Strait of Hormuz and what have you, because of course, of the Iranian war. But you know, any responsible government should have enough stocks to even last the country for about even 1 year. That is how responsible governments behave. You do not behave like you are waiting that, I mean, you just rely on the shipments that will be made every day. I mean, we must have a buffer. We must have buffer stocks. Okay. That is what we are saying. We are saying the government has failed in protecting Kenyans against eventualities like what has happened in Iran. And that is what should be happening. Then what Kenyans are also saying is that the price of petroleum products, we have been told almost 50% of this goes to taxes, you know? Okay. So government ought not to have done just something. Government ought to have protected Kenyans against this, and government can still do something and reduce these particular, most of these taxes. Mm-hmm. But what we must be very categorical and firm about is that we will not allow our country to withdraw rights that have been given by the by the Constitution.
And that's my concern, because the debate about
and protest.
The debate about fuel prices is something different. Yes. It is the right to protest.
On demonstrations, I really like what Honorable Nyutu has said, but I wish they used to say the same things when they were in government. Mm-hmm. By the way, there was a time Honorable Nyutu's friend, Rigathi Gachagua, declared that the era of demonstrations in the country is over. He made that declaration. Mm-hmm. And now you wonder what changed, that now the shoe is on another foot. Mm-hmm. They have a different story to tell. Okay. In any case, if he remained the deputy president in this country right now, we'll not even be having anyone going to the streets. Okay. We saw the kind of force that was used against us new demonstrators at that time.
And it remains a big discussion right now, police brutality going forward, because even the compensation for victims is yet to happen. This is 2 years down the line, and we are seeing police action still at the same level.
Okay, so for me, I think I heard the Nairobi RPC saying that there was nobody who actually gave notice that they were going to have a demonstration. That's number one. And that's a very key point. I think it's important that we don't ride on social media to announce countrywide or, Nairobi city demonstrations without responsibility. Because what's important is even for the police planning. If you're planning to have, and that's why charity walks don't have an issue. Because if we're walking for a charity walk, we say we're expecting 2,000 people. Heart to Heart does it every year. There's all kinds of charity walks that happen in Nairobi. We're having 2,000 people. This is our route, all right? You will find there'll be a police, there'll be an ambulance, everything will be organized. But political calls for demonstration, in most cases, no one wants to take responsibility. So you just want to rely on social media. And I'm really, really proud of Kenyans. And that's why I said no one in their right mind will go out and have a demonstration that will eventually turn chaotic, because we know it turns chaotic, without anyone responsible. And I can see even in the strongholds of DCP, there was very little movement. Kenyans are trying to earn a hard living right now. It is tough. And the little that they earn, even Mama Mboga, she ends up in a lot of problems. So, and the shop owners, so I think it's important going forward, if you're calling for a demonstration, put your face to that demonstration. Take responsibility, all right? Tell us the numbers that you're expecting. But you cannot just say, let's have a demonstration, let's get on the streets, and it will turn chaotic. Okay. For planning purposes, the police and the law requires that the police are notified and responsibility is taken. Let's do it orderly. For me, on the side of government, I think a government that doesn't listen and doesn't make plans towards safeguarding its citizens is actually a government that is looking for a short-term live. So you have to listen. There has to be a balance. So when I look at the fuel prices across East Africa, I feel that we should be the cheapest, not the most expensive. Okay. All right. So when I look at Rwanda, highly subsidized. When I look at Tanzania and Uganda, their prices are lower than Kenya's by 10 to 15 shillings. So can we also understand that Kenyans have access to the internet. They look at all the prices in the region. So what is the justification for our price being high? Is it population? I don't think so, because we all of us have more or less the same population. What is it? The taxes? What are we providing more, all right, than the other countries? There has to be justification. So I think the government spokesman at this point, right, should be able at every stage to talk and communicate with Kenyans. What I want Kenyans to know is that we have to ask ourselves, when we go out and demonstrate and we protect the properties of those who have made investments, all right, the jobs of those who are employed, who could very well be your relatives, we're doing a good thing. And I've seen Kenyans and even shop owners getting together and saying, we want to protect. But every single day that we have a demonstration that shuts down Nairobi. Yesterday, I got a message from my PA saying, Mom, I'll be working from home today. Why? Because she was scared of being caught in the demonstration. All right? So she was able to work from home. I was able to tell her it's okay. But how many bosses will accept the fact that you didn't show up to work? How many people will lose their jobs? So let us understand that the problems that we have, right, are not emanating from the time that William Samoei Ruto took office. He is trying to do everything that is possible to ensure that we move forward. Right. But at the end of the day, we should not disrupt what's going on for Kenyans and hope that government will eventually reach you. Private sector investors, it's so key for this country. Right. We need investments. Let's not send them away as we approach the elections.
And the front pages today are rife with pictures of what happened in Nairobi yesterday as police confronted the few protesters who showed up on the streets. The question we are asking is, where does Article 37 of our Constitution lie on the rights and fundamental freedoms that every person has a right, peaceably and unarmed, to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities? That is what we started with. After the break, we switch gears and talk about matters, politics and thuggery. The issue of Goons. Yesterday, the CS for Interior was before the National Assembly, and he gave his own explanation. You're watching TV47 Breakfast.
Yummy na flow kama maji, juu ni tamu kama sali. Ni juicy. Are you bored? Kuna vitu zinakuudhi, usijali my bro, ibu kama taka juicy juni.
On the next episode of House Number 9.
You know, I still don't understand why you say these things don't matter.
I keep telling you, just because we are full doesn't mean people stop coming in. Simple.
Control is not the problem.
What is?
Like I said, assumptions is.
You've adopted the veranda again, eh?
It doesn't ask questions.
Real time ilikuwaje leo?
For the first time, hakuna mtu amenirushia sahani.
We survive by, solving problems as they come. Do you understand?
That sounds risky.
Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. on TV47.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen faced the National Assembly's Committee on Security and Internal Administration, with political gangs and organized goons dominating the agenda. In recent days, incidents involving goons linked to political violence have surged, with the government, especially the Security Ministry, coming under heavy criticism for failing to contain them. However, Murkomen is now pushing back, squarely blaming politicians for sponsoring and shielding these groups.
Nearly in the areas that we have serious gangs, nearly all the political leaders, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, have at least a form of goons.
He further claimed that many of these goons operate openly under the cover of personal security.
They are disguised as bouncers. They are always supporting and escorting politicians to functions. And the Speaker, I don't need to mention names, but even if I put my eyes now to look like this, I can almost say something.
When pressed on why police have not dismantled the gangs, Murkomen pointed to political interference and challenges within the justice system.
During Jukwaa la Usalama, most of the police officers of Philly were saying that you carry out serious enforcement, a phone call comes from Nairobi, you are transferred. Okay? You are either transferred or you are warned or you are asked to release people. So judges are still releasing these people to the public. They don't care about the bail terms. As long as a number of opposition leaders have appeared before court, it is enough proof to say that rights have been violated and release these people to go.
The matter escalated following the violent attack on Vihiga Senator Godfrey Osotsi, who was hospitalized. On the incident, Murkomen said,
the Osotsi issue was the DCI circulated the pictures. As you said, some of them presented, 3 of them presented themselves. The rest of the 13 or 14 ran out of the country to the neighboring country. So, but the IG and the DCI are on them, working with the authorities in the neighboring country, and we will arrest all of them eventually. I have no interest on this question.
Despite the concerns, Murkomen told the committee that the government is rolling out youth employment programs aimed at preventing recruitment into goon networks. He added that more than 200 youth have already been arrested and charged in connection with hooliganism linked to organized groups.
Thank you so much, members.
Sydney Chazima, TV47.
Yes, it is indeed one of those conversations we've been having, especially after that unfortunate attack on the Vihiga Senator, Godfrey Osotsi, in Kisumu. Up until now, we've not seen the security agencies come out and speak about it. Finally, we get the CS to go before Parliament's Security Committee, and then we have this headline on the front page of the Standard, playing clever, because this paper now accuses the CS of pointing fingers at practically everybody else and saying he knows the problem but can do nothing about it. So playing clever, when he appeared before Parliament yesterday, the Interior CS either misunderstood his brief or, as a lawyer he is, preferred ambiguity that let him dodge responsibility. Tasked with overseeing security, he pointed fingers everywhere, but at the office he leads, he branded some lawmakers warlords, cast governors as sponsors of crime, and accused the judiciary of leniency towards gangsters, yet he named no suspects, pursued no ringleaders, and offered no clear evidence of decisive enforcement against the criminals. And this is a concern. This is the Interior CS, someone who should be taking charge. He basically told Parliament, yes, we know these people, we know who's in charge, it's politicians who are paying these people, but basically, I can't do anything about it. It's 15 months to the next election. With this kind of response from the person in charge of security, what should we be looking forward to?
One thing I think when it comes to the rule of law, we must have a constant approach to it. We should not be waiting for times around elections and then we decide on how we are going to deal with certain situations. Like now, on the issue of goons, it should just be treated like any other crime at all times, whether we are nearing elections or not. And at this point, it's good that the Cabinet Secretary has come out and stated that he knows where those goon cells are. And I think at some point he pointed out that there are some goons who have been arrested here in Nairobi and somewhere in Kitale. It should be uniform to everybody, and wherever they are identified, they are held accountable. And again, there is that issue of these goons being sponsored by certain politicians. I do not think if anybody should be above the law. If there is any politician who is directly involved or any leader who is directly involved in sponsoring goons and this kind of crime, we should not even christen it. It's just crime. He should also be arrested and be prosecuted on the basis of the evidence that is available against them. So if we take that approach, then we will not have to be so much afraid that it's only time when we are approaching elections that we want to try to contain this situation.
Do you, for example, agree with the Standard on its criticism of the CS, on the kind of response he gave to parliamentarians? He should be taking charge.
I think the CS was making very clear points. The CS was pointing out that some goons have been identified, which is progressive. And again, he also talked to the moral standing of the MPs themselves and the leaders themselves, that even if you are summoning him and asking him those questions, and yet at the same time you are the one who is sponsoring some of those criminal activities around you in the name of political protection, then you must have a moral standing to ensure that you do not do those things as a leader.
My concern here, Senator,
from the leadership.
Senator Nyoto, is the fact that he's complaining. CS Murkomen appears to be complaining just like any other Kenyan. Your colleague was attacked. He says he knows who these people are. He accuses some governors of sponsoring goons. He says it is politicians, meaning he knows he has all this information. How do you feel seeing this CS come before parliamentarians to tell them, yes, I know all this, but it would appear nothing much can be done?
Thank you, Fred, and I pray that you just allow me 1 minute before I answer that question to respond to something that was said about the previous debate. Faba said that when my party leader was deputy president, that he did not condemn, that he supported a crackdown against protesters. I don't know whether he meant that because if it was wrong, that it should now, that makes it justifiable today, I mean not now. Honorable Pasari says that nobody gave a notice for the protest. I mean the protests, yes, that were there yesterday. I'm not very sure because I think that is the information that the police gave. I mean, you can give the police a notice and they deny that you give them a notice and there's nothing you're going to do. She said that charity walks never have a problem with the police, and of course they wouldn't have a problem because they are not protesting against mismanagement of the country, and that is why churches actually do not give notices when they are doing processions during some days, but because they are not protesting against government, no crackdown is done against them. But I am very happy with Honorable Sari's argument that we cannot have any justification to say that oil prices in Kenya should be higher than neighboring countries. Surely, Fred.
I think on that the president gave an explanation.
It's my time. It's my time.
The president gave an explanation to that.
The last time I appeared with Faba, I told him it's good to have debate manners.
And actually,
I want to repeat to him.
We have moved on from that few
because he should know. However, banning your point is just hold it. You get your time. Okay. Then you'd become a very good debater. So I was saying that Honorable Pasaris made it's a very valid point. Fred, if you have Uganda, which is landlocked, has no inch of sea to it. I mean, we take a lot of, it's very expensive to transport any goods, oil products, petroleum products all the way from Dar es Salaam or Mombasa, and they still have lower prices. Surely, that thing of, I don't know the number of tarmac, the kilometers that are tarmacked in Kenya, yes. It was not a good argument. But anyway, forget about that because we are not there.
Fred, I know you'll give it's time to make his point.
I'm trying to move on.
Let me make a small response.
No, it's my time.
Thank you, Wanafwamba.
In fact, next time Faba behaves like this, I'll not appear on a show with him.
I'm trying to avoid the temptation to go back to discussing fuel prices because I want us to talk about this.
That's it, and I'm coming to that question. That's why I said I pray that you allow me to just talk about that. Okay. But I demand, I think I don't request, I demand that if we come to this show, then everybody must wait for their time.
Okay.
We also wait for
Fair enough, Senator.
Yes, those are rules of the debate.
Let's continue.
Very basic rules. And from the next time, I think I might walk out.
Senator, your point is made.
So the losses and from protests, of course, is a concern to everybody. But we must also ask ourselves, why do people protest? We must sort out the problems that make people protest, so that we avoid the protests and the losses that come from protests. Now, coming to CS Murkomen's appearance yesterday before the Security Committee in the National Assembly, it's laughable, it's lamentable that the CS in charge of internal security, so to speak, can lament like any other Kenyan. What solutions did he give? appear there and say, these goons belong to politicians. In fact, he was saying, or he insinuated that amongst the members that were sitting there in that committee, that he could see some of them who sponsors goons. I mean, what action has he taken? He is the CS in charge of interior, internal security. He cannot appear before a parliamentary committee and lament. He should say what he has done or what he is planning to do. And for this, I agree with Foba that no one is above the law. If there is that politician that he could see in that particular meeting, he should have taken action against that politician. He should have arrested those goons. What broke my heart even more was to hear him say that officers are complaining that, when they take action against some of these goons because they have political, patronage or something like that, that they are transferred. He is in charge of interior. Come on. Murkomen cannot talk just like any other Kenyan out there. He should see to it that the police who take action, legal action against lawbreakers, that they are protected, that no one of them is targeted or victimized for doing their job. He is the one who is in charge. He cannot lament and tell us the sufferings that the police, face when they take action against lawbreakers. He should say what he has done or what he is going to do. Look at him saying that those that attacked Senator Osotsi, most of them or some of them have fled to a neighboring country. He said a neighboring country. So meaning he knows which country they are in. And he knows they crossed to that particular country. I mean, what was happening at the border? How are they and why were they allowed to cross to this neighboring country? I mean, if they knew that they crossed, they should have been arrested at the time and at the border point where they were crossing to that other country. Otherwise, it is very disappointing that the minister in charge of interior, Fred, is lamenting instead of taking action. If you look at what solution he offered in that particular meeting, he did nothing. He just went there to cry like anybody else. And I have nothing against him, but you are left wondering, surely, is CS Murkomen fit to be in that office? If he has to be a CS, can't he maybe be taken to another ministry?
Thank you, Senator.
At least allow this to have a serious ministry.
And it's the quality of these discussions or even summons to CSs to appear before parliamentary committees to answer serious questions that we are concerned about as Kenyans. That a CS can come, and one of the MPs, Fred Kaponti from Mount Elgon, noted that it is very clear you have all the solutions and all that remains is implementation. That yes, you understand the problem, but are simply doing nothing.
Okay, I think, first of all, there's two things. I've had political meetings in Nairobi, many. We even had ODM Youth Convention on Monday. And for me, I think it's important for us to recognize that unemployment plays a huge role in Goonism. And the exploitation of that unemployment by politicians is also very sad and disheartening. So this is how I handle, first of all, being a woman from 2017, getting into elective positioning, realizing that there were certain places I could go, certain places I couldn't go. They're not any, in fact, they're harder and harsher on women. But eventually, I remember going to a school in Korogocho, and there was a young boy, Hashim and his team, who blocked, Tito, Hashim, they blocked the gate. They didn't want me to leave. And, eventually we got out. But then I told my bodyguard, go back to Korogocho and find those young men. I want to have a sit down with them. And I did. And we got them to get organized into a group, get registered, gave them empowerment, right? But life is hard and it continues beating you. To break the cycle of poverty takes a long time. So whenever I have a function, they will show up and they know that mom will leave something for us, but we have to be orderly. There are other politicians who will give you alcohol the night before, and then you come in and you're disorderly and you're exploiting them. There are other politicians who will get goons okay, which I call young Kenyans on the harsh side of life, get them to go and disrupt a meeting. So I feel as politicians and as leaders, you know, let's not exploit.
Are we saying politicians are above the law?
No, and this is where Murkomen now needs to really come in, because I really believe that government has an intelligence arm, and, you know, they should use it completely. Gather watertight, you know, to blame the judiciary when you don't have a watertight case is wrong. So create your watertight case so that by the time you go, you have absolute evidence. And I really want to see what will happen with this Asotsi case. What happened to Asotsi was wrong. Whoever hired them, all right, should be brought to book. The investigation should be thorough. Let's deal with it once and for all. And then the ones who've crossed the borders, surely, we have Interpol. Get them back to the country. Do not tell me that they've crossed the borders. So I think it's time that we do what is right now so that we can avoid this. But we also need...
What do you think about the CS's conduct yesterday, the kind of explanation he gave the National Assembly?
You know,
is this a quality of answers you expect from an interior CS?
You know, when it comes to when it comes to interior and it comes to defense, I really believe that on open camera, there is very little that you can say, right? But I hope that in the little that he said in open camera, right, there will be a lot done behind the scenes. And I want to say something about P.S. Raymond. Do you know what P.S. Raymond has done for the youth that were hired by politicians to do the wrong thing? Has been commendable. I was in Uganda for the election observation, and I went to in Kampala. Kampala was really opposition tough, all right? And I went to, and I spoke to some of the police, because as an observer, election observer, you get the preview of talking to a lot of people. And I said, how are you handling, you know, Goonism here? I asked that question to the head of, one of the heads of the police stations that I visited. And he said to me, he said, you know what? We incorporated them into providing security in the grassroots, all right? And, you know, we trained them so that they can do, the police trained them. Because the police realize that we are one for maybe 500 or 600. So what we have to do, what we perceived as goons, let us take them. And I want to say this, a lot of our goons are beyond hiring for NYS, beyond the age of hiring for police. But if we streamline them and we got them and we, you know, I'd like to see a day where the president who's opened State House actually has a day with all the goons of Nairobi. So that, yes, exactly. Because State House has now become the place for the citizens. Because, you know, you bring all those goons that are misused by politicians, because we're heading to an election, and you sit with them and you'll realize one thing. What they want is gainful employment. They don't want to be hired by goons. It's so risky as goons because it's so risky.
The kind of damage they cause.
Let me tell you, the damage they're causing is because they're allowing themselves to be hired. You know, for me, you know, I tell you, I mean, I have Soldier in Madare, who is a really, you know, he will not allow himself to be hired for the wrong things. But maybe in the past he did. You've got Sultan now in Madare, young, emerging, you know, they've got fire, they've got anger, they've got a lot of things. No, these are youth. Let me tell you, I don't like referring to them as goons.
But we know exactly the kind of people we're talking about.
No, I tell you what, I want to tell you that there is a time that we need, because these are role models in the mtaa. So what I want us to do, we know who they are. Even Baba, by the way, Baba once told me, we sat down with Baba and we talked, because Baba used to hate the way they push and shove it as he heads to the stage. So one day we had a discussion with Baba, and Baba said, Esther, we need a program for them. And you know what we did? I called all of them. We gave them borders. We tried to get them into gainful employment.
Isn't that part of the problem?
Yes.
That there's this, as a politician moves, they have to move with a certain crowd of people, maybe for their own protection, who look rough, who look like they can protect you.
Yeah, but you see, it's organic. So what I want, in ODM we have a lot of passion. So what I want to recognize is the role of the PS Raymond Omolo in trying to shape and re-engineer how we behave in political rallies.
Are we justifying crime, Fomba? Allow me to ask this question. Are we justifying crime? That even the CS does not see a lot of problem in this? It's something normal. Yeah, politicians do this, so it's okay.
Fred, I'll get to that point. But first of all, I want to address what Honorable Newto said. I did not have intentions of interrupting him. But you see, the issue of fuel being higher in Kenya than other countries has been there since, even during Uhuru's time, it was a matter of debate. But recently, the president gave an explanation that our country has superior infrastructure and has greater ambitions, which is true. If you go to other countries, they're not as developed as we are, and they do not have the kind of ambitions that we have as Kenya. So for that reason, because of our ambitions, to whom more is given, more is expected. So that's the situation as to why we are a bit higher than that. Now, getting back to the issue of goons, I do not think if we should give them legitimacy. Because remember, in 1963, when J.F. Kennedy died or was killed in Texas, Malcolm X went on television and said, the chickens have come home to roost. He said that the violence that J.F. Kennedy had tolerated had made him a victim of the same violence. And that's why, in my opinion, nobody is safe as far as we give these goons legitimacy. Because today they'll attack you, or they'll protect Honorable Nyutu. Today they'll attack Honorable Pasaris, or they'll protect Honorable Pasaris today, and then tomorrow they'll be against Honorable Nyutu. So the danger that faced Honorable Ososi that day when he was attacked by goons in Kisumu is a danger that can affect any other person. And in my opinion, at whatever cost, whether you're in the opposition in government or looking for a seat, like some of us who are not yet elected but are seeking elective seats, you must denounce any form of criminality. You cannot come with a projection that there's room for rewarding criminality in the name of appeasing them so that we are like under their mercy. That does not work. Let us address everything in accordance with the law.
Do you see the reluctance of the CS to handle this issue? Because politicians are involved.
The CS, I've seen that part that has been aired on TV47, but the day before, the CS had pronounced that some goons had been arrested and they were being prosecuted. They were being taken through the process of the law. And again, the other point that I want us to encourage, and even the minister should also take it up, is to ensure that if they are prosecuted, they are supposed to name their sponsors, and those sponsors are also supposed to be held accountable. But unfortunately, in this country that is so polarized politically, you will still find people coming out for opportunistic reasons. Once these fellows are arrested, they'll come out and start saying that they are being targeted. And that is most likely to come from Honorable Nyutu's side. If these people are arrested today,
the CS says he knows some governors who are sponsoring
Honorable Nyutu's side will come out and say that you are targeting our people, and they'll politicize the whole matter.
So because there's a potential of politicizing, does that justify the reluctance to
Now that's the challenge, but there should be no justification whatsoever of tolerating any goon, whether attacking an opposition leader or a government person or a person who is seeking an elective seat, because nobody is safe from this kind of menace.
So you do agree that the CS was playing clever, as the standard says, that he avoided the issue?
I cannot say that he avoided because the answers that he gave and he explained. My only request or demand is that these actions should be practical. They should be seen. We should see these people arrested. We should see them prosecuted. We should see them convicted and sentenced.
But what does he say, Senator Nyoto, about the quality of these summons for CSs to explain anything before elected members? That the CS can come and waste your time as a Senate or a committee of the National Assembly and not give any proper answers at the end of the day. For what benefit is it to Kenyans to have such an appearance?
Thank you. But before I get to that, allow me, Fred, to say that Honorable Pasaris has mentioned the name of P.S. Omolo. And I think he mentioned his name and insinuated that he's doing a very good job.
Let's allow the senator to make his contribution.
Doing a very good job at Interior. But I just want to remind Honorable Pasaris and notify her if she didn't see this. There was an image of Raymond Omolo in a place, a photo taken with two of the goons that attacked Senator Osotsi before that. So maybe Honorable Pasaris, before maybe you praise P.S. Omolo, maybe you didn't see that image. There was an image of him with two of the goons that attacked Senator Osotsi. So there were very many questions that people raised. I mean, exactly where was it that he was with those goons before? Because it was before this attack happened. Where was it that he was with them? What it is that he was doing with them? Those are questions that people were asking, and we continue asking. But I think Honorable Basaris, I think, can also produce some comedy. I mean, when she says that these goons should actually even be invited to State House one day and have a tete-a-tete with the president, I thought that is very comical, because then what message, Honorable Basaris, will you be sending to young people? That when you become a bad boy, so to say, that then that earns you a visit to the State House to see the president. So I think much as it is good maybe to see what we can do to rehabilitate these particular young men who are jobless, and I agree with Honorable Basaris that most of these young men, most of them are men, not women, are actually taken advantage of by politicians or by whoever it is that uses goons because they are jobless. Much as I may want to see them in gainful employment, whether self-employment or otherwise, but I think to give them the honor to visit State House, the only qualification being that you are a goon, then we will encourage very many young people to be goons so that they can qualify to be invited to State House, meet the president, be given money because that is what the president does, and maybe get some gainful employment. I think much as we may want to rehabilitate them, but I think giving them that honor will have some other very serious ramifications. And allow me to say that, Faba here, my brother, has said that if these goons are arrested, that we on this side will complain that our people have been arrested and are being targeted. I want to tell Faba and those that think like he does that we do not have goons ourselves. And I mean, it is a fact. If we had goons, they will be arrested the first day. In fact, we wouldn't be attacked in churches. We wouldn't be attacked because the goons then would be there. The owners of goons are known, and they are people who support government. So arrest all of them. And you'll not see me or my party leader, Gachagua, defending any goon, because we do not operate with goons. We don't have goons ourselves. Faba knows who owns the goons, and it's clear. So I'd let them be arrested. We will not defend any goon. But now coming but allow me to tell Faba, it's very important that to get another argument. These arguments, this being constant in arguing that things were going wrong then, so you are like trying to justify the things going wrong today, is a very unfortunate argument. Remember now he's saying that oil prices in Kenya have been higher even during Kenyatta's time. He's insinuating that we should allow it to continue because it was that time. I mean, and I want to tell him that what President Ruto said while justifying this particular situation is a very serious thing. And you saw Tanzania responding yesterday. President Ruto must start being responsible in his utterances. Faba and those that support government must keep reminding President Ruto every hour, because he forgets. And he must keep reminding him that he is the President of the Republic of Kenya, that he should not be careless with his talk. Tanzania protested yesterday because when Faba here says that the president said that, we have bigger and higher ambitions than other countries, that is why, what are you telling those other countries? So this is not just something simple. You must look also at how it impacts on
really
our
hard
impacts on our
to avoid
foreign,
the temptation to go back to the issue of fuel.
The question now, why a CS who is not providing any answers or solutions should continue appearing before, parliamentary committees? I think it's important that they continue coming so that they are exposed. Because not all of them come and, just say things that are nothing. Some of them say substantive things. It is important that they continue appearing so that they can be exposed. And every Kenyans will be there to see people whom the same National Assembly, vetted and approved for appointment, how poorly, equipped to run those ministries they are. So it's important.
Yes.
Okay, no, I need to say something. First of all, I mean, Senator Nyoti, you need to understand, seeing a picture online of anyone with anyone does not mean that the person was with them. That's number one. Number two, we're in the era of Photoshop, we're in the era of AI. I mean, so I would not rely on any picture online. I mean, boy, I've been in bed with people that I would never even think of sleeping with on social media. So at the end of the day, we can't rely on social media in this day and age. That's number one. Number two, let's understand something, that these people that we're calling goons, that we know are hired by politicians, right, are Kenyans. And when you are in government, can I tell you, when you are in government, right, and you're an elected representative, you are elected to represent everybody. Everybody, including the hardcore criminal who is serving time in prison. We provide budgets for them. We provide food for them. We provide medical for them. We provide good facilities for them. So everybody, if you're the president of this country, every citizen is somebody that you have to look out for. So for me, if we see we're heading to an election and we have this tension that is rising right now on goonism, I do not see what is wrong to sit and engage them. For me, if they were empowered, they would not be misused by politicians. And you know what? Because of unemployment, we're targeting different groups. We are targeting teachers, creating 100,000 jobs. Why can't we target these youth who are misused and they're creating a lot of havoc, not only in political rallies, but also to the investors who are running small businesses. So for me, as a politician, nobody is, I serve everyone. I don't pass judgment. I've had engagements
even to obvious criminality?
No, hold on. I serve everyone. I go to Langata prison every single day to understand what their needs are, all right? They're all criminals in there. They're people who've been arrested, some on life, okay? But at the end of the day, as an elected leader, they vote. We are their representative. So we are representatives of everyone. So we have to serve everyone. And I believe as the head of state, when you see there's a crisis here, there was engagements with Uhuru Kenyatta in the Mungiki. Why? Because they were creating a lot of havoc, all right? So you needed to sit with them and understand and then dismantle them. But you're not going to be able to dismantle something without discussions with them, So we need to have dialogue to understand why there is this issue. And then anyone who's caught, there's a young boy who was from Ruaraka, Sherry. Sherry died. Sherry was, tough. He was like a goon. How many times he chased me around this town was crazy. In the end, we sat, but in the end, he died. All these youth that we're dealing with, for me, they're youth and they're hardcore criminals and they're goons that cannot be reformed, but they're goons that can be reformed. As a Kenyan leader, everybody will be served by me.
Right. Final word on this.
I just want to make a comment, and I agree with the Honorable Passaris on one point, that, and I've said it before, that goons do not belong to one particular person. But what they usually do is they usually want to identify with any leader that comes. So P.S. Omolo having appeared in a photograph with the goons does not necessarily mean that he's the owner of those goons. Because these goons have had profiles. I think Facebook has identified a good number of them. People on Facebook have identified them with their profiles. And you'll find that they have taken photos with so many other leaders from their areas. So they do that as a way of marketing themselves and their services or appearing in public. But it does not necessarily mean that if you take photos with them, for example, on the basis of humility as a leader, you want to be down to earth, talk to everybody. It does not necessarily mean that you are their sponsor. So that is far-fetched and unfounded. On the issue of criminality, I want to get back to it, that there is room for rehabilitation of those ones who have been involved in crime. But then there are also laws that guide on how we deal with the people who have behaved in a certain way. And if it gets to an extent that someone has committed a crime or an act that takes them through the process, the judicial process, up to them getting convicted and being imprisoned on the basis of their crimes, then the president can still visit them at their place of belonging. For example, you remember Moody Award when he was vice president. He visited so many prisons and interacted with so many prisoners. So we cannot justify that whoever is committing a crime is supposed to be given special treatment, that we come and engage them. The number of criminals will increase. If that gives you a privilege to talk to the president for having committed a crime, then you'll commit a crime so that you meet him. If it implies that those of us who are good citizens, people who are obeying the law, can never access the president, we will be tempted now to also do what these others have done, so that we get an opportunity to meet the president. So I do not agree with that.
All right. Yeah. Very interesting discussion. And the Standard very critical of the kind of answers that CS Interior, Kipchumba Murkomen, provided before the National Assembly's Security Committee on this issue of goonism. And the question is, are we using them as an instrument for political machinations, especially as we move closer to the election? This is something that we'll continue talking about. We talked about last week. I think you were on the same panel. We talked about the same. You want to add something on that?
You know, I want to tell you something. Do you know when the president had his huge empowerment project in State House? Quite a number of the people that you're calling goons were there. They were being empowered. So we're already doing it. We're already getting them into State House so that we can change their lives, all right, from where they were to where we want them to be, which is empowered.
What do you think about that? Should these goons be engaged at that level, probably even at the level of State House?
Policy making.
They've been there.
Is that the approach now that the CS does not appear keen on taking action against them? What do you think? You let us know. I want us now to move to the political temperatures. And it would appear that there's one individual that everyone is talking about, and that's your party leader, Rigathi Gachagua. Many have dismissed him as an impeached former deputy president, that he's inconsequential, no one should be paying attention to him, but it would appear everyone is talking about Rigathi Gachagua. Let's listen to some of what these top leaders, including the president, the ODM party leader, and everyone else has said about Rigathi Gachagua in the recent past.
Since his impeachment in October 2024, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has become a political headache for President William Ruto and his allies due to his combative and confrontational leadership style. This has earned him the title of rabble-rouser among opponents, while to his supporters, he is seen as a people's watchdog against President Ruto's regime.
Ukiona mtu wako na hasira mingi, kelele, fujo, madharau, kiburi, matusi, kila mtu, huyo mtu mimi naona wewe Duale, andikisha hawa kwa SHA tuwasaidie waende hospitali. Hawa watu ni wagonjwa bana. Those are sick people.
Anasema ati akina Rigiji, ati vile wanaambia Wakenya ukweli, ati ni wagonjwa wapelekwe hospitali. Wacha nikuambie Kasongo, Wakenya wanauliza mtu ambaye amechanganyikiwa anasema pikipiki inatumia mafuta ya taa, ni mgonjwa si mgonjwa?
On Monday this week, ODM party leader Oburu Oginga became the latest target of Gachagua's political playbook after threatening to sue him for defamation.
Lakini kuna mmoja wao ambaye amesema ati Oburu amenunuliwa. Mimi nitapeleka yeye kotini aseme huko Oburu amenunuliwa na pesa ngapi.
Nisisikie ngwe. Nisisikie nini?
Critics say Gachagua, who made headlines in Ol Kalou during the burial of late area MP David Kiaraho by confronting a sitting president on the same podium over his impeachment and the battle for the Mount Kenya region, appears to be borrowing heavily from the 2022 political playbook of hustlers versus dynasties.
This narrative of them versus us, which succeeded very much in 2022. You remember the dynasty versus hustlers, the haves and the have-nots. It worked very well in 2022, but he cannot apply the same now.
For us, after Raila exiting from the scene, I think we need another watchman, and we have one.
Also not spared in Gachagua's verbal attacks is Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, alongside President Ruto's Mount Kenya MPs and governors, whom Gachagua has branded as traitors. He has since launched Operation Fagia, calling for those leaders to be voted out in 2027.
Wewe mwizi, wewe muuaji, adui ya mlima Kenya, mtu ya Singapore, mtu ya kutenga, Kasongo aende asiende, Kasongo aende asiende.
The Akorino Church has also not been spared after Gachagua claimed that members were paid 3,000 shillings each to visit State House Nairobi.
Pale kwa gate kila mtu anapewa 3,000 akiingia. Unajua pale Kikuyuni hakuna kitu naweza fanya na Ruto sasa bila biashara. Hata maombi lazima alipe.
Sio heshima kutukana maaskofu wameketi kama hawa ati ni watu ya tumbo.
Despite his aggressive political messaging, especially in the Mount Kenya region, Gachagua critics point to his few loyalists across the region as proof that he is not the area's political kingpin and that UDA remains a party to reckon with. MPs Gathoni wa Mushomba, George Koimburi and Mary wa Maua are among Gachagua's allies who have since parted ways with him. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Well, it used to be that Raila Odinga, the late Raila Odinga, was referred to as or rather people interacted with him in both extremes. You either had Raila mania or Raila phobia. Now that appears to have moved to someone else in the person of Rigathi Gachagua, that everyone, especially those dismissing him as being inconsequential because of the impeachment, are spending too much time talking about him. Senator, do you agree that, yes, even though the United Opposition may not be very clear about who their candidate will be, Rigathi Gachagua is a man to watch?
Thank you, Trevor. I may not want...
My name is Fred.
I don't know why.
Too many shows.
It's okay, it's okay. Understandable.
But just allow me, Fred, I come here so many times, by the way. Just allow me to say and that I agree with the Honorable Pasaris that in this age of technology and AI, it's true that people can generate images that are not there. But just to inform Honorable Pasaris that P.S. Omolo never denied that it was actually a real photo that was taken with those particular goons. Faber says that, you know, you cannot refuse to take pictures with them. But then, you know, this is the PS interior. He must be very careful whom he takes photos with. Again, Honorable Pasari says that we look for everybody, and I agree that when you are elected, we represent everybody, including criminals. But then, you know, when you invite somebody to State House on account of being a goon, make it a qualification, and I agree with Foba there, then it will make a wrong precedent. And that is why not everybody is given a presidential commendation. You know, it is special. You know, I mean, if you make criminality the qualification to gain access to State House and to have you be, you know, assisted to get into gainful employment, then it will send wrong signals. That is what I meant. To answer your question, Fred, sorry, I don't know. I've never confused a name with another. I don't know what happened. To answer your question, you just ask yourself, you know, people will go there led by the president and say how Rigathi Gachagua cannot take you anywhere because he's impeached. But then he spends over half of his time discussing the same man that he wants to say is inconsequential. When his deputy, whom, by the way, Rigathi Gachagua says he doesn't recognize, and calls him President Ruto's employee, and I agree with him because, you know, for you to be deputy president in this country, you have to be on the ballot with the presidential candidate. So, I mean, the deputy president also will, you know, stand up and also spend almost all his time discussing the same man that you want to call inconsequential. But can we ask ourselves, what makes somebody consequential in politics? It is the following that you have. There is nothing else. There is no other definition popularity or being consequential in politics. It's about the numbers that are behind you, and that is not even debatable. So I may not want to ask Honorable Passaris what she thinks about that, or even Faba. I've heard him for the first time saying that he's seeking office. I mean, nothing determines the strength, nothing else determines the strength of a politician. It is the following that you have, because it's about numbers. So what you need to ask yourself is, how many people, how are the numbers that are behind His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua compared to these busybodies you hear him, you hear attacking him, people like Duale, who will attack Rigathi Gachagua every day, even without provocation, forgetting is he actually a cabinet minister. How many people are behind him today, if you ask him? These people, even the Speaker of the National Assembly, who even allows the House to debate Rigathi Gachagua, the inconsequential Rigathi Gachagua. How many numbers does Weta have behind him? Anybody who you find there, attacking Rigathi Gachagua, Kimani Ichung'wah, how many people are behind him? So, whether you like it or not, whether you want to say Rigathi Gachagua is impeached or not, his strength is in the numbers, and I can tell you, it is in the millions. And I also want to tell people, the issue of the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua is still in court. And remember, there are very many levels of judiciary. I mean, we have the High Court, then we go to the Court of Appeal, and finally to the Supreme Court. So I want to tell those people who think that Rigathi Gachagua cannot vie for office, for example, to think twice. We have not exhausted the legal mechanisms and the stages that we have in our judiciary. So, nobody knows what will happen. And I can tell you, I do not want to discuss the merits or demerits of the case because it's in court. But I can tell you, as a layman in matters legal, I know there is one basic principle, that you cannot be condemned and had. Fred, Rigathi Gachagua, I was in the Senate when he was impeached by the Senate. He was impeached while in hospital. He was not allowed time to come and defend himself before the Senate. And we pleaded, those of us who wanted to at least see that the process happened in a legal way, in a fair way, pleaded, because we still had a leeway. It happened on Thursday, but according to the standing orders and the law, we had till Saturday. We pleaded, why don't we give ourselves time to even know how the patient is doing before we can pass a vote for him? For me, that was something that was that he was condemned and had, and so let people wait for the courts to make a decision. But as per the numbers, why William Ruto will not talk about anything else before he talks about Rigathi Gachagua, it's because he knows the 3.7 million that he got from the mountain, all that has gone to Rigathi Gachagua. Right. The 1.2 million that went to Raila Amolo Odinga, all that is now with Rigathi Gachagua, not to mention the newly registered voters. And that is where now, if you want to know the worth of Rigathi Gachagua in the Kenyan political landscape, tell me who. Okay. Today, who? And I guess just a minute. Who? Even President Ruto has about 7 million votes behind him. All right. That he can just call and it comes.
It's a consequence of this political clout that he now carries that we still do not know. As he says, there's a matter before court. But it is also very true that he said that it is very difficult to ignore Rigathi Gachagua right now. We see the president almost reacting or responding to Rigathi Gachagua within hours, within the same day. The former deputy president says something and the president finds the need to respond to him almost immediately. You must agree, he cannot be ignored at this point.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think 2027 is going to be very, very interesting politics. So from what I've just heard right now, we might have a Gachagua DCP candidate running. We might have Kalonzo Musyoka running. We might have William Ruto running. So the dynamics, Sifuna probably as well running, But the thing is, when all is said and done, let us have politics that is not demeaning and insulting. Let us not have politics that is dividing our people. You know, for me, the one thing that I know that every political leader likes a block, right? And they should learn from Baba. Even though Baba came from Luo Nyanza, right? He was a nationalist. He served this country. And I see something in that. Also, you know, I mean, I look at Kindiki coming in from a very small community in the mountain region, but appealing to Kenyans across the entire country. All right, we have to understand that we've been in a dark place as a country in 2007 because of tribal politics. I would like to think that if a leader stands up and says that the entire mountain is mine, the entire mountain will do as I say, right? There are two things to observe about life. You know, you might, you know, everything depends on God, all right? So we cannot claim the people, right? Even your members, you know, ODM has a membership, right? We cannot even go there and say everybody in our membership, 100% will go this way.
But is it wrong for any politicians to declare themselves king of anywhere?
You see, this is the politics that we've had since independence, where we've divided according to tribal cocoons. And I feel that the more we educate Kenyans, then we go into issue-based politics. So I think let's focus on what our people need, all right? But politics, the way it is, and it's not going to go away soon, we have to avoid at all cost tribal politics, the politics of insulting. And let me tell you, I won't be surprised if in the future you will see probably President Ruto in Gachagua sitting and negotiating. So the people and the grassroots.
But don't you think that the president himself has contributed to a lot of this by constantly responding or finding the need to respond to Rigathi Gachagua?
You know, I think that there are certain places that you go that are so low that warrant a response, okay? But I think the president, when I listen to the president, right? If the president is talking, 90% of his speech will be on issues and on development. Maybe 10% he'll throw in something there, you know, to tell him, you know, here's your take it back. But let's focus on developing this country.
But if we just focus on the politician Rigathi Gachagua, this is commendable by any standards. It used to be only Raila Odinga who could command that kind of response. The National Assembly keeps talking about Rigathi Gachagua, even without a substantive motion to discuss the man. Do you agree that, yes, we are seeing the rise of another gigantic politician in Kenya?
It is extremely dishonorable to compare Raila Odinga with Rigathi Gachagua. Raila Odinga was a nationalist. Rigathi Gachagua has openly declared that he's a tribalist.
Yes.
He has never pushed a nationalist agenda as an individual. Everywhere he goes, his rhetoric is about watu wetu, sisi watu wa mulima. Remember, a politician, and a good politician at that, I think Rigathi is a good politician in the context that I'm just about to tell you. A good politician is one who makes his personal problem to look like it's a people's problem.
Yes.
But a good leader is one person who identifies people's problem to make it his problem. Now that's the difference. So Gachagua has created a narrative of even implying that Mount Kenya people are excluded from this government when they form 50% of the President Ruto government. They, in boards, in parastatals, wherever, they are everywhere. He's the only one who was removed from the seat through the action of the law. And again, you cannot say that Professor Kindiki is a lesser deputy president than he was, because Deputy President, former Deputy President Gachagua was Deputy President by virtue of the operation of law. The same way, Professor Kindiki is there by virtue of the law that is provided for us to follow. So I do not like the kind of political hygiene that I'm seeing around in terms of the narrative that is pushing towards 2027. Especially one that is being advanced by Gachagua.
They say that the end justifies the means for a politician as long as
it is very wrong even for the generations that are coming. If you look at the 1992 kind of political framework that we had in the country, there was a nationalistic approach. Those ones who were in the opposition were pushing a nationalistic agenda. But Honorable Nyutu's friend here, every time he stands on top of a car, he's talking about what way to sit, what to get. So how is someone who does not belong to his ethnic group going to feel that he is still welcome under the arrangement of the political formation is creating?
Are you denying the kind of following that he has? Are you denying the kind of following he has?
I did the projections the whole of last week on various scenarios of winning in 2027, and under all those circumstances, William Ruto is winning in 2027. So all these are sideshows. And even Honorable Nyutu has revealed the secret that the whole thing, the whole reason as to why Gachagua joined the so-called united opposition was to disrupt it. Their intention is to play around some games and hope for the Supreme Court to do some magic so that he also runs for an elective seat so that he can come with a handful of members of parliament. And I think Honorable Nyutu will be elected on the basis of that defense of Gachagua. He'll be elected on his DCP party because he's come out as someone who's defending him. So those MPs and senators, among them Honorable Nyutu, will be part of the negotiating tool for Gachagua to be part and parcel.
But let me get you right. Let me get you right. Are you denying the kind of pool that Rigathi Gachagua has as a politician, whether regional or whatever?
He is playing games. There's nothing like support. Support cannot be determined at the ballot, and it's not going to be.
Then why? How come every cabinet, quite a number of cabinet secretaries, the National Assembly, the president, the deputy president, how come all of them find the need to talk about this man, if at all?
Because I've told you he's a good politician. He's playing with the minds of the people. He has turned his personal problem of losing the job to look like it's everybody's problem. Now, those ones who are not so keen enough or who easily get provoked, because you remember his cards, he said that he wanted the president to be annoyed to a certain level. So this is just cat and mouse kind of games. They have nothing to do with the national agenda. And that's something that we should really run away from. No one should fall into this trap of attracting this kind of conversation around Rigathi Gachagua.
All right.
Because the impeachment determined that it's not suitable to hold public office as defined, or state office as defined in Article 260 of the Constitution. And if you read it together with Article 75 sub Article 3 of the Constitution of Kenya, it does not qualify to hold any office in this country.
All right. Senator, there is some facts that he has spoken about, or even on the list of accusations on his impeachment, that issue about tribalism and talk about shareholding. That was one of the prominent things. Why is it so difficult for Rigathi Gachagua to convert this, if it's political goodwill that he may have, even from that one region, to a more nationalistic approach?
Fred, allow me to say this, that Honorable Pasari says that now I'm revealing that, or she says that from my argument, that there will be several presidential candidates from the united opposition. She says that now it's clear Gachagua will be running, Kalonzo will be running, and probably Sifuna will be running. That was not what I said. I said that Rigathi Gachagua will or may be cleared by the courts to run. So that when they sit on the table, and I want to be very clear on this, that the United Alternative Government has pledged that they are going to present one candidate. What I'm saying is that on the table where they are going to sit and decide who amongst them will carry the flag, that Rigathi Gachagua could sit on that table as a qualified presidential candidate. I have not said, lest I'm misquoted, that there will be several presidential candidates. What I've said is nobody should dismiss Rigathi Gachagua as somebody who will not be amongst the candidates that will be considered when we are picking one flag bearer. So in case President Ruto had started getting excited that maybe now we are insinuating that there will be several presidential candidates, I want to say sorry. We are going to present one, but Rigathi Gachagua will be amongst those that will be considered for that ticket. That is exactly what I meant, because we must be very clear about some of these things. And I'm glad that Honorable Pasari says that we should avoid politics of insults. How I wish that Honorable Passaris, who is in the broad-based government today, how I wish she can go and tell President Ruto Because he's the one who initiates these insults. When he says people are brainless, people are, kuna mtu wa size yangu. He is the person who does that. Please, Honorable Pasaris, when you meet President William Samoei Ruto, who heads the broad-based government which you belong to, please tell him to give us a break as Kenyans, insulting other people, saying who farts when, where, who eats more than who. And tell him also to stop announcing the death of, heads of cattle and what. He can do better as president. Please tell him that. We need, better politics and more mature politics, not, politics done by people who are looking for to be elected as cattle dip chair people. So please let him know that. Now, this thing that Foba and many people keep saying that Rigathi Gachagua is a tribalist, well, Raila Amolo Odinga was a nationalist. Fred, can I tell you something? That the only difference between Rigathi Gachagua and other politicians is that he says what he means and means what he says. President Ruto will tell you, for example, because the only person I would want to compare with Rigathi Gachagua is actually Ruto himself, not the others. Forget about the others. It's Ruto that we are comparing with Rigathi Gachagua. President Ruto will keep saying that he's uniting the country just by joining a section of ODM. A section of ODM with a section of UDA. And President Ruto will tell you, we are in this union to unite the country. My foot, which country? UDA, the original UDA, remember some of us, most of us were there. Rigathi Gachagua was there. All those followers you see with Rigathi Gachagua were there. ODM, NASA, so many people were there. Akina Sifuna were there. Babu Owino were there. James Orengo were there. So when you say that that you are uniting the country by just bringing William Ruto and Oburu Odinga together, it's laughable. So what he's doing, he is trying to unite Kalenjins, some Kalenjins, and some Luos, and he calls that national unity. What Rigathi Gachagua does is that he says he does not pretend. Look at the appointments, and I can give you a list of, parastatal chiefs and what have you that President Ruto has appointed from his community. Mm-hmm. So he will come out here and say he's a nationalist while practicing tribalism. So Rigathi Gachagua does not pretend.
So you do agree that
no, he's not.
He does not pretend.
What I'm saying
he's a tribalist, and that's what he does.
I'm not saying he's a tribalist. I'm just saying that he accepts that his major base is the mountain.
Because my question, Senator, was, why is he not keen on converting this political goodwill from the mountain and probably elsewhere into a more nationalistic approach?
But he does, Fred. That is why he has reached out to His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka. He has reached out to Fred Matiang'i. He has reached out to even George Natembea. He has reached out to Eugene Wamalwa. He has reached out to everybody, but nobody wants to see that. What Rigathi Gachagua does and says is, let us unite our blocks. Let people unite their support bases. Because in this country, people have their support bases. Okay. Raila Amolo Odinga, and I respected that leader, great leader, but his major support base was Luo Nyanza. That was his major support base. Then he had other bases elsewhere. So what Rigathi Gachagua is saying, let each one of us unite and bring together their support blocks, their support bases, so that then we unite them together. Fred, I don't see why people have a problem with this. When we talk of the East African community, for example, President Ruto will bring Kenya as a bloc to the East African community. President Samia will bring Tanzania as a community, as a bloc. And so will the other presidents. It's the same thing that Rigathi Gachagua is uniting and consolidating Mount Kenya. Okay. So that Kalonzo Musyoka basically will unite and consolidate to Kambani, where his major support base is. Fred Matiang'i, his major support base is Kisii.
Thank you, Senator.
Then we bring them together. How does that make you a tribalist? And then people keep saying, sisi watu wa Mulembe, sisi kama Waluya. When they say that, those ones are not tribalists. But we from the mountain, when we say, sisi watu wa mlima, we are tribalists.
Thank you, Senator.
We refuse to be called tribalists just by
There's some truth in that, the fact that politics in Kenya is organized around communities and around regions. Is it not disingenuous when we accuse one person of solidifying his background and or his political base? And don't you think we are lying to ourselves that all these leaders who've been elected as presidents have not enjoyed that kind of support from a particular region?
You know, I want to say, two wrongs never make a right. Kenyans, you know, when I saw the beauty about the Gen Zs when they came out, is they were tribalists, they were leaderless, all right? And a lot of people have tried to hijack that movement. The Gen Zs want accountability, they want jobs, they want opportunity, they want peace, all right? That's why they didn't come out and do the wrong thing. We obviously wronged quite a lot of them with the killings that we had, right? We're now looking at reparation. A country, I mean, Kenya is a young democracy. If you look at countries like France, and they had revolutions during the French Revolution, you look at the US, all right? And you look at Europe, these are democracies that have grown over years. We were colonized just 65 years ago. You know, we were under different masters. We have a long way to go.
But even the US has blue states and red states. Some people enjoy support from particular regions.
Yes, you see, their politics has actually emerged into, now they have independent, they have Republicans with certain values, and then you've got Democrats. And now you have Democrats who definitely hate what's going on with the Republicans, all right? So what I want to say, as a country, right, we have always pegged our politics into tribalism. And we need to take from Baba, the one thing that Baba told us is the entire country, whether your president comes from your region or not, devolution says you should be reached by your government and you should be supported, all right? That's number one. Number two, our politicians who talk tribalism. I got elected twice in Nairobi. I was recently reminded I'm Greek, you know. I have Kikuyu blood, okay? So for me, I mean, I love the culture and I love the Kikuyu music and I love the food, you know, right? But I equally love the Luo fish, all right? And I equally love the Costarian pilau and biryani. I mean, our culture, our diversity is the beauty of the continent of Africa. So, and Kenya. So what we have to realize is, what does everyone want? Good opportunities, the dreams of our forefathers, as coined in our national anthem, we need to get there. And for us to get there, we need to be able to see who is talking tribal politics, all right? Who is working with tribalism as the engineering or the fueling. Kenyans need to do one thing. Love your neighbor. It's biblical, all right? Love your neighbor. Your neighbor can be a different, you know, somebody once said to me, when you go to the hospital and you receive blood, you get O positive, O negative, B, A, at the end of the day, you don't know whether that blood came from a Kale, a Luya, or Luo. So why do you need to know what tribe you are? I hardly even know tribes of people. I want to know you as a Kenyan, as a human, as a child of God, and I want to serve you in that respect. Okay. So let us shun the politics of tribalism.
Yet most of our politicians, and this is very evident, speak from a point of their community, from a standpoint of their background, where they came from, where they represent. Yet they're the first ones to quickly point fingers at other people who they feel are tribalists. Don't you think that when it comes to tribalism, our politicians are disingenuous when they point fingers?
First, let me get, Honorable Joe Nyuto has said a lot of things, but one thing that he has not denied is the fact that Rigathi Gachagua has been pushing a tribal agenda all through and through. How I wish we converted ourselves towards a different direction of saying we should have issue-based politics. Just because one person has advanced a tribalistic agenda, it does not justify the other person doing that. we must progress as a country so that we get out of this arrangement that you can qualify to be a CS or a PS without necessarily the president coming from your tribe. You can qualify to be a head of a parastatal without necessarily you being aligned to a certain tribe. Let us embrace merit-based kind of qualification so that you hold a position on the basis of your qualifications. Through that, we'll be able to develop our country because we'll fit competence to positions. So just because a mistake has happened somewhere, you do not justify it by advancing it further. I'll encourage that we, whether people come from Kisi, Mulembe, Nations, Coast, or wherever, we pursue this nationalistic agenda and encourage the coming generation, which is so nationalistic more than the generation that is making a lot of noise on TV right now. So we encourage people so that they embrace each other as Kenyans.
You're right.
And the example of saying you are meeting an ethnic conclave similar to what the president meets other states, it doesn't make sense. Because the state responsibility is very different from giving yourself a title of a tribal kingpin. It's very different because there's no time we go to elections to vote for an ethnic kingpin.
All right. Yeah. Politics of tribe and the rising star of Rigathi Gachagua in Kenyan politics. They say we should not compare him to Raila Odinga. But clearly, he's the one person or one politician that every other politician currently is responding to. All right, enough of Rigathi Gachagua, and I want to give you opportunity to make your final comments. Senator, we'll start with you. President William Ruto is coming to Murang'a this week. And what should we expect as you make your final comments?
Thank you, Fred. And nobody should call Rigathi Gachagua a tribalist just because he pursues the interests of the mountain. Other regions also, remember he has not been elected president now, he is impeached. Other regions also have their leaders to pursue their interests for now. Then we join forces. At the end, when I speak, I pursue the interests of the people of Murang'a, not the people of Kiambu, even if they are Kikuyu just like those from Murang'a. But I am elected to pursue the issues of Murang'a. I will talk about Murang'a before I talk about Kenya. And that is a fact. So other regions also have people to talk about their interests. And why people want to say that Rigathi Gachagua is a tribalist is because he is the only man left standing to talk about that particular community of the mountain that has been targeted by President Ruto, deliberately targeted by President Ruto. And when you hear people like Faba telling you that we have 50% of government, what 50%? CSs who have no power, CSs whom every CS from the mountain was given a PS from President Ruto's community, and all the powers passed to the PS. I mean, then you tell us we have 50% of government. Which CSs are you talking about? Most of the CSs now that we have, about 3 of them, did not vote for President Ruto, did not even support him, but because he wants to, laugh at us and show us how useless we are. They are the ones that he gives jobs, and jobs that cannot help anybody. They are just there as flower girls. So Rigathi Gachagua will continue talking about the atrocities and the violation of rights of Mount Kenya people. Whether you want to call him a tribalist or not, you can also go and talk about the rights of your people, and then we join forces at the end when we are looking for the candidate to present as a joint opposition or alternative government in waiting. So I mean, you may call him whatever you want to, but others are tribalistic by practice. Only they do not talk about the communities directly because, of course, they are not open and they are not truthful. Now, you have mentioned a very important matter that, yes, President Ruto will be coming to Murang'a, I think on 25th, that will be Friday. All I would want to tell President Ruto when he comes to Murang'a is not to make any other promise to the people of Murang'a, to first of all keep the promises that he has made, the roads that he promised, Mau Mau roads, to come and tell people what progress he has made and all the other roads that he has promised. There are so many. I hear he's coming to launch another road joining a place called BAMBA to a place called Wadabaki. I want to ask him, please, if he knows that he's going to launch that road and others which he has launched even more than 3 times, because President Ruto in Murang'a is on record as launching a road from one side, then coming again, launching it from the other end when nothing has been done, to tell him not to come and make promises, to keep the promises that he has kept. And finally, to ask him that when he stands in Kangari on Friday to open that market, to remind people that that is a project that was initiated by Uhuru Kenyatta, and to tell the people of Murang'a when Boniface Kariuki, the mask vendor, who was killed by the police for no reason at all, when he will be compensated, when the family will be compensated. Okay. To tell the people, there is a young man, I forget his name, from a place called Kenyona. It is not very far from Kangari where he'll be. It's across the ridge, Kenyona in Kegumo constituency. A young man who was also killed by the police in Kasarani. Tell the family what plans are there to compensate that family. And another young man that was killed in a place who comes from a place in called Kahaini in Kandara constituency. We want him to see to it that those families are compensated before he starts telling other lies to the people of Murang'a, because the people of Murang'a have been able to unmask his lies. He should come and do what he has promised. Let him not promise us anything else, and see to it that those families are compensated.
I thought you would say he's welcome to...
of course, he's the president of the Republic.
But coming from the Senator,
we have nothing. We cannot prevent him from visiting Murang'a. It is his right, but he should know that in Murang'a, people have no respect for murderers, for thieves, and for people who tell lies every day.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. Madam Passaris, I feel I should ask you about ODM. Mm-hmm. The demands, as you look forward to the coalition talks with the UDA, have increased from just the half of the cow. Now you're demanding respect. Why is that? What has changed?
I think,
as you make your final comment.
You know, yeah, I mean, I would want to say that we have a party leader and a party chairperson, and they're the ones who are going to put the task force together, or the technical committee that will go and discuss the partnership. What I want to say is, at the end of the day, both partners in the broad-based government want what's best for Kenyans. And when we sit on the table, right, we should put our egos down and we should focus on the people. We can't do politics all the time. We have to do people. When it comes to, you know, I was listening to a senator here. I think it's really, and this is the chip politics that we play. You know, you can't be on national TV and ask that if, you know, first of all, identify, you know, the president, liar, murderer. You know, these are things that I think go too far, right? And I think we need to have respect for institutional officers. He said he didn't recognize Kindiki. Kindiki is the deputy president. Gachagua was impeached. Swallow that reality pill. That's why Gachagua is out, Kindiki is in. You have to respect structures of government if you are part and parcel of that government. And the questions of compensation, he's a senator. He should actually ask for a question to be answered by the Kenya Human Rights IPOA and push for the reparation budget so that we can be able to compensate the people, all right? And make sure that the ones he's talking about are all on that list, all right? So I think and then you talk about the president launching a road on one side this week and maybe the other side the other week. If a road is 20, 30, 40 kilometers and you're on this side, you launch it. If you're on the other side, you launch it. What's the issue? I think whether we like it or we accept it or not, President William Ruto will go down in history as the president. You know, even he talked about the market that Uhuru started. It's the one who gets to the finishing line, and that's President Ruto with that market. So for me, let's respect. Let's not just throw out words. I really wish that, you know, he could be, some of these things, you know, defamation suits should be lauded. You can't come on national TV and brand the president with things that, you know, are not true. Okay, so for me, you know, we talked about the association with people. All right, Fred, I'm sitting here with you right now. We have pictures taken with you. If tomorrow you, God forbid, you turn out to be a murderer, does that mean that I was an accomplice to the murder that you committed? No, I was not, because I was with you, and it can be explained. So when it comes to our youth, all right, there are some that are already in jail because they went too far with their goon acts. There are some that can be rehabilitated and avoid being misused. And my take to them is that, you know, I know life is hard, but do the right thing. To the police, I'm so grateful to the work that you do for us every single day, right? Just continue doing the good work, and the IG, reform where you can, the DCI, watertight investigations. Let's make sure that as we approach 2027, Kenya is bigger than all of us, right? We've inherited it, we need to pass it on. Let's pass on a more developed, more united, more progressive Kenya to the future generation. That's what we owe our citizens.
Thank you
as
so
leaders.
much, Madam Pasaris. And finally, Fwamba.
Yeah, Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya talks about inclusivity. And I think that's the approach President Ruto has taken. And now that you see he's visiting Murang'a, under other circumstances, you will see the kind of rhetoric that is being advanced by Senator Nyutu will not allow the head of state to go to their region. So one of the biggest problems they had with the President Ruto was that he was inclusive. He was reaching out to other parts of the country, because then they preach exclusivist politics. And that alone should give President Ruto a lot of accolades. And when he came up with the broad-based arrangement, he wanted to accommodate more people into his government, just the way he has accommodated development to all other parts of the country. Therefore, now on the issue of ODM, ODM should not think that broad-based means them. Broad-based means ODM and means all other parts of the country, all other people, including those of us who do not belong to ODM. So they should not come with these kinds of demands. They are talking about zoning, they are talking about 50-50. It doesn't work that way. As we go towards 2027, all of us must have an inclusive approach. Whether you are in the opposition or in government, have an inclusive approach so that we have nationalism as the main value or the main virtue that we are supposed to hand over to the next generation.
Right. Thank you so much, and very well said, Bwana Fwamba. NC Fwamba, political analyst. Asante sana for your time at TV47. Asante sana, Esther Pasaris, woman representative, Nairobi County, and John Nyoto, Senator Murang'a, for your time at TV47 and for helping us look at the headlines today. And this is how they read. Playing clever, that's the standard, as stinging as they come. Multinationals start wiring 42 billion shilling NSC dividends. Matters business on the Business Daily. On the Daily Nation, CS and 2 MPs linked to 20 billion shilling land saga, 300 acres, somewhere along Kiambu Road. Where? Kama ni shamba unatafuta, tafuta zaidi. Padri na shehe kutetea Makenzi. Bado huyu jamaa yuko kotini na anasema atatetewa na padri fulani na shehe pia. These are just some of the headlines this morning. Being a Wednesday, of course, we'll talk matters relationships after the break, and Anodida, of course, will be taking you through that. My name is Fred Indemule. Good morning.